Today's episode of Northern Lights is presented by North Star Law Group, a trusted partner to small businesses in Minnesota's legal cannabis industry. Whether you've already applied for a license or are just getting started, attorney Jen Riza and her team can help you build a compliant business, identify and navigate risks, put together an application, and keep you informed about the ever-changing Minnesota cannabis landscape. Are you ready to add North Star to your team? Visit northstarlaw.com/cannabis and let North Star Law Group guide you through confidently opening your doors. Again, that's northstarlaw.com/cannabis. Keeping track of your grow doesn't have to be a hassle. Meet Plant Track. That's PLNTRK, a tool built by Minnesota growers for growers like you. Track every stage of your plant with intuitive progress bars for each phase. Stay on top of your grow with text reminders for watering, feeding, and photos. And when it's time to log data, it couldn't be easier. Just scan a QR code or tap an NFC tag to instantly access your plant's details and updates. You can even log your interactions for one or all your plants in just seconds. Ask detailed questions with the AI chat powered by your plant's data and get the help that you need when you need it. It's free for up to 8 plants. Go to www.plntrk.com now and start tracking your grow. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Northern Lights. I'm your host, Tanner, joined today by John and Jordan. Hey there, guys.
Howdy.
Fellas.
2025, new year.
Same old us, yeah.
Happy to be back here at the Seed-In Sesh, kicking it off for episode 14.
Did you guys enjoy your new year, your transition to 2025, the year of the future?
I did, yeah. I'm loving having a wife where all of her friends are parents.
You should have stopped after
Yeah,
that.
I love having a wife. Period. Full stop. No, all of her friends are very new parents. So all of her friends' kids are like a year max. So every year prior to this, we've done some big New Year's Eve party. This year, we just chilled at home all night. It was the best. Shout out to Sarah's friends. You guys are really cool. Not anything against you, but I like a chill New Year's Eve.
That sounds fun. I stood in line forever and then sat in a packed room full of drunk people, and then
all right. Was it a cool line at least?
The line?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
Kicked my girlfriend's ass in chess.
There we go.
We were in the line because we were in the line for a fucking hour.
And just to clarify, is this virtual chess, or did you guys bring a board and table with you?
No, chess.com. Yeah.
All right, that's fair.
Flipping the board.
What are you in line for?
Oh, Can Wonderland. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, we were just going to fly right past it. I appreciate you asking.
Yeah. Shout out Can.
Shout out Can. Super fun.
Worth the wait and maybe a line here and there.
I want, so for those who haven't been to Can Wonderland, check it out. They've got a wall you can go to, and it's just like put your card against it. You can get whatever drink you want. I want the equivalent of that, but like a dab bar, where it's just jars. And I get to go and scoop some, put my dabber tool down, it weighs how much I took, and then I just get to rip it.
Just rip it.
Because I loved being able to go and just like try a bunch of different drinks.
The beer wall is super
pretty cool. Yeah.
I don't know if I partook a couple nights ago, but
well, shout out to our new sponsor, Can Wonderland.
Can Wonderland.
No, just kidding.
We have very deep connections to this organization, so yeah, we could make that happen.
I say we should email them. They're very local people.
Yeah, that'd be cool. If you go upstairs to Blackstack, they've got Real Trees, THC beverages right there. It's a fun time.
I think I sat in Blackstack. This is completely.
This is what people listen for, John.
I sat in Blackstack one time while my girlfriend used the bathroom. And I was all I remember, and long story short, they gave me free beer.
Nice.
I guess that's all I got to say. So they're cool.
Did they feel bad for you for some? What was going on?
I bought beer, and then he was like, he's like, you want this one? And I was like, yeah. And so last time I got there, I got kind of lucky. It was nice.
That's pretty
cool. The Blackstack guys are good guys.
They were really
very
cool.
good guys.
They chatted me up while my girlfriend was in the bathroom.
right next to the bathrooms, there's another business that does aerial aerobics. So if we've ever wanted to like spin from the ceiling,
Fly
suspended
Freak.
from rope, yeah,
go.
we could go and do
like,
that.
I remember being like, what the hell is Fly Freak?
Just go pound 2 triple IPAs and then string yourself up from some
Take to the
silks.
skies, yeah.
I feel like I would throw
And
up.
then, I don't know if the business
But
model
when you're
is
done,
landing.
go to the basement, drink a little more, and play some mini golf.
There we go. Yeah. Some fun arcade games. All right, well, let's jump
back
into
to
it.
it.
Although, first, Jordan, did you have a good New Year's Eve?
It was excellent. Yeah, it was kind of a combination of your story specifically because I was at a chill party, but there was also many children under the age of 1.5 too. And then I looked at my partner and we both were like, oh, we're the only people here that don't have a kid, whether the kid's present or not. We were like, oh, we don't have, that's it. But hey, that's where we're at, folks.
Yeah. It's like that meme of there's all the people chatting at the party and there's the one guy against the wall. And it's like YouTube being like, they don't know that we have a bunch of fucking free time. And,
they all got.
They don't know I have a regular circadian rhythm.
Yeah, right. Well, so guys, we've been off for the past couple of weeks. People, if you are subscribed on YouTube, if you subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever, which you definitely should go do. You also got a bonus episode that we dropped where we invited people at our holiday party to come into the studio, sit down, and tell us their high notes, something positive from the year. That was a fun episode. I really enjoyed that one.
I gotta watch that one.
Yeah. I don't think we, John didn't share
I wasn't there.
2024 high
I wasn't
note
there.
because he wasn't there. So I think we should get John's 2024 high note.
The only human being in the world who can outsmoke Snoop Dogg is Sam Darnold.
All right.
That's all I'm going to say.
Hot.
That's all I'm going to say. That's it.
All right. I love it. That's a good high note.
That was 2024, though. Who knows this year?
That gets us to the end of the show. So don't worry. We will get there. But yeah, guys, we've got a lot to cover today. We've got a couple different news stories, sort of reviewing.
The wrong person's going to see that, and they're going to make that man pee in a cup.
Hey, Sam, it's your turn for the random test.
Yeah, sorry, Sam. Friend of the podcast. Maybe not after this. No. We've got some news. We're going to be talking about what the future of cannabis looks like in Minnesota. It's a new year, but the rules are the same. We'll be talking about what that rollout will look like. We're also going to be talking about Vireo, a company here in Minnesota, and their expansion across the entire country. We touched on this story a little bit a couple weeks ago, but we've got an update. And then, guys, we're going to play a game today.
Ooh.
I know. I love a good game. Something new. And then we've got an interview with John Dugas of Superior Molecular a little bit later. You get to hear about his history in Minnesota cannabis, the creation of hemp-derived edibles that we all know today, and also what his thoughts are on milk. Do you drink chocolate milk? We'll get to this later. It doesn't matter.
It's a good interview.
It's a good one. And then at the end, we've got our high notes as always. But first off, I just want to give a quick shout out to everyone that did come to the holiday party. It was a fun time. Thank you to everyone that came and supported our podcast. It was cool to have people here, like filling up the entire Doobie Dabbler, or the Dabbler Depot here. The Seed and Sesh was session. And people were watching Northern Lights. So it was cool to have people out. So shout out if you were there.
Sounds fun.
Thank you. If you weren't, we'll catch you at the next one. We're gonna keep doing that for sure. And we've got a couple prizes here. Now, we did a raffle thanks to the incredible partners, Storks and Bickle. And we just want to shout out some of the winners. So Marty, who won the incredible Mighty Plus, come on down. We'll actually call you. But congrats on winning that one. We've also got a couple other winners here.
We got John over here.
So we've got the Venti, their new device. Shout out John for winning that one.
Oh, and a Crafty Plus. This was my OG for Mr. Joe Zhang.
Wonderful.
So, yeah.
Wonderful.
That's
well, so
awesome.
If this is your first time hearing that you won, come on down to the Seed and Sesh. Otherwise, we've called you. So hopefully you've picked this up by the time the episode has come out. But yeah, Jordan, thanks for bringing those over. Thanks to Storks and Bickle for making that happen.
Yeah, shout out Storks and Bickle.
Yeah.
When I was a young man, me and two friends split a Crafty.
Ooh, all right. That's pretty cool. I split a PAX with a friend, and I got to be honest, I think you made the better choice.
Oh, yeah. Like, whoever, possession, it's 3/4 of the law. Like, whoever takes it out with them is the winner.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Well, so let's sort of jump into the news, because we've got an unclear future in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Both in terms of cannabis, but also just legislation generally. So in terms of cannabis, we're at this in-between time. We know that the process for people to apply for licenses will open up come spring of this year. We know that people will be able to get verified as social equity applicants again, or maybe your first time, come this winter. And if you want to request a refund for your application from the pre-approval round, you got to do it by January 10th, which, according to my notes, is only 3 days after this episode comes out. So make sure you request that if you want your money back from round one.
I told someone that today, and they're like, no. I'm going to get the next one. I was like, I like the attitude.
Yeah, I like it. You know, stick it out. But we don't yet have stores up and running. No. It's looking like that's all going to be coming into play late summer, early fall, about 2 years after it became legal to possess and grow cannabis in Minnesota. We're finally going to have stores possessing and growing and selling cannabis.
On like Minnesota land.
Exactly.
Yeah, we'll see in the interim how much the tribes keep like expanding. Like I feel like there was a little bit where every show we had an update from them.
Absolutely. And another part of like us being in that in between is we've heard rumors that compacts could get signed in the next couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. We don't exactly know with what specific groups or what exactly those look like.
You know what I was thinking about? It was like Tim Walz coming back, and like how much negotiation was happening when he wasn't there, when him and his top staff straight up weren't there, and then coming back because they negotiate the compacts directly with the executive branch.
Yep.
So it's like Peggy Flanagan was presumably leading those negotiations. Now it's back to Tim Walz. It's an interesting dynamic. If anyone saw that Star Tribune article.
Ooh, yeah.
I gotta say.
I was going to touch on that. For those that haven't seen, allegedly the governor and lieutenant governor are not talking or super collaborating, super working together. Maybe Governor Walz came back and was like, man, Peggy, you sort of assumed the governorship while I was gone and isn't thrilled about that. Again, just speculation and rumors, but interesting to see how our executive branch.
But isn't that just like what you do?
That's sort of the whole role of the
legislature. Yeah, to wait till he leaves and
you're the lieutenant. Yep.
But yeah, really interesting to see how the tribes continue to expand while we wait for everyone else to get their licenses.
Yeah. And then throwing even more questions into the muck, we've got the Minnesota legislature. So let's talk about this is perhaps the most unclear the Minnesota legislature has been in the history of our state.
I was going to say ever.
So what happened? Well, so a few different things came together. We had an election that was really close. Yeah. We had a Senate where the DFL had a 1-seat majority and a House where it was evenly split. Yeah. Second time in Minnesota history.
Which at first, and that even was contested during the whole thing. Like election night and the weeks after election night, there was a lot of confusion surrounding who's in charge, and then it fell into a tie.
So adding some of that confusion, House District 40B, we had DFL win that seat. It covered part of Roseville and Shoreview. However, the Republican who lost in that election filed a challenge because apparently Curtis Johnson, the guy who won, doesn't live in the district and hasn't forever. Just had an apartment and was residing at a house in a different part of the state. Not a great look.
And I believe the issue started with redistricting, which was a couple years ago now.
Yeah, so something that sort of should have been resolved.
Yeah, and I was looking into the investigation. Did you look into it at all?
Oh, yeah.
Because
let's be honest, it was the other candidates, essentially volunteers, who went outside of his house and photographed weeks after weeks showing, he's not here. No. His car isn't here. And even worse, his car is at a house in a different district, and you see him coming in and out and live his whole life there, which,
with his family,
power to you, go live at your house, but then don't get elected in a different district. All right, so we had a judge look at that, throw out his election. So now we've got an open seat there that there is a special election coming up, but not before the House comes to session.
Yeah, special election day they're supposed to start.
Yeah, January 14th is when the the primary. Or that's when so that's when the primary. Also, when the session comes back, January 28th is when that special election is. So 2 weeks is going to be with the Republicans in control and
assumed control.
Adding to that, we had the death of Minneapolis DFLer Carrie Dursick, who passed away, now leaving the Senate in a 33-33 tie. She will also have, or her seat, will also have a special election, same timeline, but also puts us at that. We'd had a 1-seat majority in the Senate, DFL, and now it's back to deadlock.
Yeah.
And even more, we talked about this one past a lot on the show, Senator Nicole Mitchell, who allegedly broke into a house. Her trial is scheduled to start later this month.
Yeah.
So we'll know more about that. One interesting part that I wanted to pull out is they're not allowed to refer to her as senator at all during the trial because the prosecutors ruled that it doesn't really relate to this case. Mm-hmm. She's a person.
Yes, and we have a citizen legislature, so it literally doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, so Mitchell, we want to throw in, she did plead not guilty, so we're still waiting to see the verdict on that.
We got to let it all play out, but the question is how much can she vote during that?
And when she was asked, are you going to be resigning if you're convicted, she refused to say anything, which I don't think is a good look. And so we're at this situation where we don't really know who is in charge in the House or the Senate. There's a quote that I pulled from Stephen Schleiser from Carleton College that said, we're at a unique point in Minnesota political history.
To say the least.
Yeah, and I think that's such an apt way of putting it. A very unique point of not really knowing who is in charge and adding, fire to the whole thing. The GOP House Speaker designate has come out and said that because the Republicans hold a practical majority and that they hold more seats than the DFL, they should be able to choose the speaker. They should be able to make decisions. Mm-hmm. They should be able to do all of this. But what's tricky is that the guidance from the Minnesota legislature says that for bills to pass, they need 68 votes. And so if we only have 67 members of each party, what do? We need at least one person to cross for anything. To happen.
Yes. And the big thing this year is the spending bill. But to add more context to that, we have, or the GOP and the DFL have already negotiated leadership positions. Because before Curtis Johnson left his seat, they had negotiated co-chairs, co-speakers, co-assistant speakers, floor leaders. Mm-hmm. And I believe now the Republicans are saying, forget all that. Nope, you guys lost one.
Yep.
We now control everything.
Yeah.
So, even the stuff that's officially on the MN Ledge website right now could potentially change. And I was listening to, shout out Blois Olson, best political reporter.
Oh, yeah, such a good political reporter.
We all know that, yeah. But I was listening to his show, and it's other than 1979, where we had a tied legislature, we haven't seen anything close to this. So there's there's a little chance where there could be a boycott, or like you said, no one, even if they get back in, no one will go over ever, and we get nearly nothing done.
Yeah, which as a person who likes well-functioning government, I think is bad, but to silver lining. As someone who really likes clear rules for cannabis businesses, we're not going to probably have much change in terms of the rules over the next year, maybe two.
For anything.
Yeah. So people that are trying to open a business saying, will the legislature pass a bill that might change things? Likely no. Will the legislature pass a bill acting on the recommendation to legalize certain psychedelics in Minnesota? Likely not. Maybe, and that's...
See, there are issues where you can find that one person from the other side who is you know what, this is my jam.
And maybe that's what this leads to. Forever the optimist, maybe this leads to some really interesting forms of compromise in our government.
I'm hoping. We have a really good legislature here in Minnesota. I think people on both sides communicate well with their districts and really try to do stuff. Like when one side has complete control, we see a lot happen.
Yeah,
like
very true.
Last
session is a perfect example.
Yeah, but GOP trifectas have like actually like done stuff in this state too. So it's like maybe we'll be forced to pragmatic policy making. That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping everyone's like, okay, we can talk.
More to come. I mean, this is one of those stories that we'll continue to watch throughout the next couple of months.
We should say, rest in peace, Carrie Dietzick.
Yeah, for sure.
Long time leader here in the state of Minnesota.
Yeah.
And yeah, she was a special politician.
Absolutely. One of the votes that was essential in getting legalization across the finish line, getting this all to happen.
And keeping all those votes together, which she did after her cancer diagnosis. So like she's been one of the best leaders I've observed in politics. So we'll miss her. Yeah.
Yeah, 100% agree. Well, so like I said, we'll keep watching that one over the next couple of months. The session begins in just a couple of weeks here, goes through May. Who knows what will happen over the next 5 months?
Who knows? Hey, and if you want to run for 40B, too late.
Yeah, unfortunately, you had to have filed that very, very quickly. When Walz made the call that, hey, we're doing the special election, the turnaround time was like, you got to let them know the next day.
Usually like a few days anyway.
And that's how special elections work.
Yeah, it's like, you're like, oh my God. I saw a bunch of Republicans posting. It's like, yeah, like you're going to win, bro. Like suddenly you care about like who.
And that's the funny part about this is both of the seats that we're talking about, deeply blue districts, they're not going to switch Republican. Mm-mm. It's just this in-between time where they don't have someone seated there, where that vote isn't being cast. But it's not like it's ever going to become, at least in our current political arrangement, Republican-controlled seats.
Yeah, but we could be in a weird spot
Yeah,
if the Republicans, the first 2 weeks before that special election, if they can vote for a speaker, vote for leadership in the committees, then you will have like a tie, but they will be having a working majority, where it's like they are the working majority party.
Yeah,
which will be interesting.
Jordan, I think you should run for political office.
I've always considered that, and the sign would say, "I'm here, but I don't want to be."
I like that.
You might win.
Yeah.
I think it speaks to the realism that it's like, hey, this is a bad situation, and a guy who has no qualifications or interest in being here has been empowered and encouraged to step in and be like, guys, can we do better here? Like if it's me, we've failed.
Back in this is history teacher Tanner coming out. Back in ancient Greece, they had a system for a moment of time where they had like a draft to get people into the elected body, where it wasn't like you got elected. It was and you got picked. Your marble got.
That's how they did in Athens, right?
Yeah. And so I think it would be certainly interesting if we had like a citizen body that was not elected, but just, hey man, sorry, you got the short straw. So
honestly,
next 6 months you're in St. Paul.
I don't see how that's any different from the way we run our jury system. But now it'll be like, it doesn't even have to be like you're the legislator. It's like you're an advisory. You have to advise on this.
Yeah.
No choice.
Honestly, we probably would have gotten legal cannabis sooner.
Way sooner.
Yep.
Well, we've got one other story that we're going to talk about, and then we're going to jump into a game. But I did want to address this one. Now, we talked about it previously on the show about the multi-state operator based out of Minnesota, Vireo, raising a ton of money, both expanding their footprint into other states and expanding how much capital they have to operate here in Minnesota. Now, over the break while we were off, they officially closed that entire private offering, raising just over $81 million. That's a chunk of change. Decent chunk of change. They're going to be using that money to help in business development, organic growth, all that stuff. But in essence, they're buying companies that are operating in Missouri, Nevada, Utah, and Florida, expanding their market into a wide variety of states.
I'll say I know Utah just switched over to hemp laws that are very similar to Minnesota's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Florida has a pretty well expanded hemp program, and the Flowery makes some really interesting products. 710 Labs, which is one out of Colorado, the Flowery grows and processes all of their stuff that they make in Florida. So it's an interesting sort of. I've not heard of some of these other names before. I've definitely heard of that one before. I've not heard of Proper Brands or
Never heard of Proper
Deep
Brands.
Root Harvest, but they're really focused on trying to expand what they offer and creating, the real value of multi-state operators is that they're able to have synergies across multiple different markets, and they're creating a delivery and analytics platform that they're calling Arches that will only be available to companies that are in that Vireo portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want your products delivered seamlessly to someone's doorstep, or you want to be able to track what people are buying across the state of Minnesota, you gotta be part of this bubble, which I think is a neat value add of the, what is really multi-state operators have versus small craft business. Well, it's the scale, and the things that you can do with scale is massive.
You can buy when you can go out and buy like known companies.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that is your advantage.
Yeah.
It's like you can always be there. You can always dominate.
Yep. Do you want to be a hemp beverage manufacturer? Purchase one. Do you want to be in this market? Buy the rights to it. Yeah. Now suddenly your business is able to expand at a rate that is just insurmountable to, insert small local grower here.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. I'm curious to see where that money ends up getting utilized here in Minnesota. We've seen some indication that they're starting to build out a grow facility in Elk River.
I feel like that is where the money is going. We know supply is going to be the problem. Mm-hmm. I would hope Vireo is thinking about that a little harder than we are.
Yeah, that's fair. And especially being able to be the supplier, selling this product to retailers across the state of Minnesota, to tribes, to insert whatever system you want here.
And then buying these other companies, it's like you can take their SOPs, you can take their best practices, and just bring their best talent. Even.
Yeah.
You can just straight up bring someone from the flowery and be like, okay, I need you to run this in Minnesota.
Yep.
And I think that's, they're gonna be ready, it looks like.
Oh, yeah. So $81 million. John, if you had $81 million, what would your grow facility look like?
It'd be like the Sphere.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
But it's a greenhouse.
I love that.
But it's surround. There's something. What do you call those domes?
Like geometric dome.
Yeah, dude. There's a guy whose greenhouse is that in South Minneapolis.
Oh, all right.
It's like it looks like it's a repurposed.
Oh, you know what? I think I've driven past it before.
It's like right off of Lake Street. If you you keep going down,
totally.
It's like on like 31st or something.
I wanna grow weed there,
dude. That's like the thing I thought about when you asked the question. It's like, one of those big domes, but like bigger, and then maybe put some stained glass here and there. I'd really have to burn 81.
That'd be cool.
Mine's go lava lamps everywhere.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
Sick.
And beanbag chairs.
Dude, think about 2 layers of lava.
Dude, how many beanbag chairs can you get for $80 million?
At least 5.
At least 5.
Do you think you could use the light of a lava lamp to grow plants? Could you get a lava lamp bright enough?
I was thinking.
Yeah, it's not the brightness issue. Yeah. It's more the
volume.
Volume. Yeah, if you have enough of them, sure. Yeah.
Imagine
and if you're using the right bulbs, sure. Yeah.
Are you a manufacturer of lava lamps? Do you want to be sponsored by Northern Lights Podcast? Reach out. We've got a project for you. Oh.
Do you want to sponsor?
Yeah. There we go. Do you want to sponsor? There we go. Thank you.
Back to one. Take it.
Thank
marker.
Thank you. Do you own a lava lamp? Do you want to sponsor? Shit. All right. We'll put them both in. All right. So
we'll cut them together.
Yeah, I'm just so curious to see what Vireo ends up doing with all that capital. And yeah.
Man, oh man, are people gonna be upset with whatever they do?
With what? And that's the thing. Like, no matter what they do.
No matter what. It's just, it just happens.
Well, on that note, we're going to take a short break. And when we get back,
Games.
A game. We'll be right back. Are you ready to kick off your home grow? We've got the perfect hookup for you. Minnesota-cannabis-seeds.com. They've got everything from fast flowering strains to unique hybrids, all ready for growing in Minnesota. And guess what? Our listeners get an exclusive deal. Use the code NL10 for a 10% discount on your entire order. Don't miss out. Get the best seeds and start your grow strong with MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. Remember, NL10 for 10% off. That's MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. Grab your seeds today. back to like the 70s, pre-indoor hybridization in America, you still had people that were shipping Maui Wowie into Minnesota.
No doubt, right? I mean, even like people who don't smoke weed, Maui Wowie is like this recognizable strain that everybody knows about. So
yeah,
I'm super excited about it.
Cannabis history in Minnesota is one of my like nerdy points. I just find it so interesting. And there's a guide that was put together by the Minnesota Daily, so the student newspaper for the U of M, way back in the 70s, that looked at all the different pricing for like hashish and different types of weed. It had Mexican brick on there. It had Thai stick, and it had Maui Wowie as like one of those classics that people knew by name. And it's cool that that genetic lineage is something that we can bring forward to today, and doesn't just have to be an experience of the 1970s. It can be an experience of 2024, 2025 here in Minnesota.
Yeah, no doubt, right? And it's funny, like guys my age, you know, graybeard and older, like it's the number one thing people ask me for. It's amazing. Like still to this day, everybody's like, yeah, what do you know about like Maui Wowie? Can you get that? So it seemed like a no-brainer, like, oh, we got to get this one in.
I love that. So people probably know Maui Wowie as like a classic sativa strain. But what can people expect a little bit more on that flavor profile? Like people have probably heard of Maui Wowie before. You've heard that talked about as like, oh, this is such a great cultivar for if you're looking for like an uplifting daytime. But what can you get on that flavor side?
Sure. Yeah. The effects, I would say, like more high energy. And then the pineapple flavor is definitely like, you know, the number one kind of noticeable distinguishing quality about it.
I love that. Yeah. Anything on that tropical fruit side of the entire end of the spectrum, I'm just such a fan of. And Maui Wowie is like the grandfather of that entire flavor profile. It has birthed so much cool stuff. So I'm excited to have Maui Wowie be sent to people all across Minnesota.
Yeah, so are we. It's going to be time.
So tell us a little bit more about this box. People can get Maui Wowie delivered directly to their doorstep, but what does that mean? What kind of stuff comes in that box?
Sure, yeah. Like the fun part about it, right, it's different every month. So you get a range of stuff depending on when you sign up. We get, you know, our partners involved, so as much swag and stickers and all that cool stuff as I can convince them to give me, then I pass it on. So it's really fun. You know, you kind of get a broad range of things.
Awesome. So I've gotten, you know, the Slurricane seeds. I've gotten the Blue Dream Auto seeds. But for people who maybe haven't been following along, maybe have been hesitant to sign up, but thinking, oh, Maui Wowie, now is the time. I got to do it. How would people go and get signed up to get those seeds?
Sure. MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com.
Awesome. Sweet. So that's MinnesotaCannabisSeeds.com. You can enter that in right to that URL box. Get that entered in. Go get signed up for that box and have Maui Wowie seeds delivered right to your door.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you again for coming in today. We really appreciate it as always. And everyone out there, go get your seeds. It's time to grow. Would you like to play a game?
I would like to play a game.
A game made of games.
Oh, yeah, guys. It's a new year, new us. We're playing some games. Now, we're coming to I guess we're at the end of 2024. It's officially over in the books. And we've got a number of events that happened in the year in cannabis. And what we're going to do today is we're gonna rank them. You've seen those classic S, A, B tier things. Mm-hmm. We're going to be ranking ours into 4 different categories. How much of an impact do they have? How much do they matter? We've got 4 categories. The first one, and they all have very punny names, so I expect a wonderful laugh every time. Not the laugh track, though. I just want you to laugh real hard. All right, so the first one is Up in Smoke. Ha, ha, ha. There we go. Perfect. This is an event that is not impactful and probably will never get a mention on another Northern Lights episode. This is just, it's going to get its 10 seconds of fame. All right, it happened. Moving on. Next one, Puff, Puff, Pass. You know, it's sort of there for a moment. It was slightly impactful. We probably won't talk about it much in the future. You've passed it on, it's gone. Third category, Stuck Like Resin. This is an event that is pretty impactful. We'll probably keep talking about it in the future. And then finally, the grand poobah, if you will, the new 420. This is an event that is super impactful, a memorable moment in time, and you will keep talking about it in the future. Man, do you remember when this happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a list
Okay.
of things that happened this year that you guys don't have in front of you. You've not seen this list before. I'm going to be describing things that happened throughout the year, and we'll see, A, have you heard about that event? Is it impactful? And B, do you think it will matter in the future?
Can we just get a quick run through of the scale once more?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Up in smoke, not at all impactful.
Okay.
Puff, puff, pass, a little bit impactful.
Fine.
Stuck like resin, it's still around.
Pretty cool.
The new 420
Excellent.
defines our
420s.
culture.
God tier.
Sounds so cool.
It is
love
very much God tier, yeah.
I'm excited about this because I have opinions, obviously, and maybe some bias.
Yeah.
But
Well, and some have made their way onto the show in the past, so I'm excited to...
Say, isn't that what makes it fun?
yeah,
A
baby.
little bias.
A little conflict here and there. Woo.
All right, let's get started. So our first one here. Superboof is named Leafly Strain of the Year. Now, Superboof is a hybrid strain known for its vibrant citrus flavor and its versatile effects. It was honored as Leafly Strain of the Year. We don't talk about the whole history. We did a whole blur about it. But my question for you, do you guys think we'll keep talking about Superboof in the future? Or will it be yet another runts that it had its moment and then it was gone? What do you think?
I think it's trendy.
Trendy?
It's trendy, popular. Things are popular and trendy for a reason.
Do you think it will stick around?
I'm gonna put it in the puff puff pass.
All right.
Like,
Yeah.
is that how should we say? it
Totally.
now,
Yeah,
or
that's
should we
perfect.
Wait till
No, I think that is perfect.
okay,
Yeah,
'cause that's like
it was sort of impactful.
it was
but-
like cool. There's like I don't know if I heard a super booth.
okay, there we
So
go.
it's like
Yeah, Jordan, 5 years from
Kinda
now,
cool.
if someone was like, do you remember when Superboof was Strain of the Year? You'd be like, not really, but
Yeah, it's like who won the Super Bowl last year? I don't know. Like
the Vikings?
who?
No.
It doesn't. See, the
Niners
thing,
lost the Chiefs.
it doesn't matter, John.
All right.
But yes,
2 years ago, I
I
couldn't tell you.
I agree with John.
So puff, pass. All right.
Yeah.
It was there. Now it's gone. All right, next one. This was big news. Have you guys heard of Monogram? All right, well, Monogram was Jay-Z's cannabis brand. They were selling pre-rolls for $50+. And unfortunately, this year, after not being able to find enough suckers to buy those, they had to shut down operations, making it the first celebrity-endorsed cannabis venture to come to an end. Oh, yeah. Do you guys think we'll remember the day that Monogram was no more? Or do you think, like many other celebrity-endorsed products, this will just be one of those that,
Went up in smoke.
yeah.
Definitely, yeah. That's a trees falls in the forest situation.
All right.
This is the first I've heard about it.
I saw an article and giggled because I was like, that's what happens, right? They invest, they like do like one little marketing run, and then they see how many suckers they can get.
Unless you're Snoop Dogg, and then you just got tequila,
That's
you
an
got
actual
wine,
lifestyle.
you got weed, obviously. Like, oh yeah, Snoop Dogg's just on a side quest. He's just
where
perpetually
were
side
we-
questing.
Me and my girlfriend were somewhere, and she was like, they have the Snoop Dogg wine. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I've seen that before. It
Dude,
blows
was like,
me away.
It was like a crave or something, like a restaurant. And I was like, what the fuck are they doing with all
Guys,
this?
Snoop Dogg wine.
I had that wine within the last week, and it was not the
everywhere.
first time I've had that wine. And it's good wine.
It must be. Dude. They brought out like 20 of them. I was like, what is
It's
happening?
good. It's good wine. Yeah.
All right, well, Jay-Z, you are up in smoke, alas. All right, here we go. The next one, sort of a political moment in history. This was the first election where both presidential candidates were in favor of reforming cannabis laws, making it easier for people to get cannabis. Well, Trump never fully went in favor of full legalization. He did support state measures to legalize cannabis, making 2024 the first pro-cannabis election we've ever had. Do you guys think that will be impactful? Is this a turning point in our political chapter? Or is that just sort of a neat piece of trivia for bar night in a couple years?
Yeah, I'll say puff, puff, pass on that one.
All right.
I'm gonna stay safe and say puff pass on that one. Also, but like
I say,
he has a lot of opinions about states.
yeah,
Choice.
one of those persons
So,
is like generic politician, and the other person is like complete maverick. So like can't
Yeah.
really count on the next GOP guy being like, okay, let's
Super fair.
yeah.
All right. Well, so goodbye, cannabis election.
Bye bye.
Puff up pass.
Mine.
All right, next one. Another political one. States cracking down on hemp-derived cannabinoids. So up until this point, it's really been sort of the expansion of more and more hemp products. 2024, however, marked the change of that, where we saw states like California begin to actually ban hemp-derived products containing THC. And those legal challenges have been upheld in court, perhaps signaling a nationwide trend. Do you think the crackdown on hemp is here to stay? Will we remember, oh man, those hemp days, they were nice? Or do you think it's just sort of a momentary blip and then things will keep on moving towards legalization?
John, you can start
Go first.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go for it and say this is the new 420.
Okay.
I think as like legalization spreads around the country, we're going to see the internal civil war that we've seen between hemp and cannabis, which are the same plant.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's gonna be the new deal that people really care about is like, if a state's legalizing it, are they keeping the hemp side or are they not?
Totally fair.
We're going to talk about it every time a state legalizes it.
Yeah, one plant, two communities. That's for sure.
I agree with John. Is like it feels a little watershedy momenty, and
New
like
York too.
it's like like if trends like that continue, it's like we see patterns, we see how these things unfold, and it's like at this point, it's a foregone conclusion that like it is gonna be impactful as there's precedent being set by these large, slow-moving, bureaucratic institutions.
Totally.
Because it took New York, like they went through. It's like, oh, we're gonna like roll back on it, and then it's like, no, it's not a full-on ban.
Yeah,
and they kept changing. I think they had a bunch of people like quit or leave.
Yeah, well, and it was. I remember Minneapolis Cider Co. proudly announcing like you can get our products in New York, and then like a couple of weeks later having to say like, actually, not anymore. No, you can't.
And didn't Mini Grown figure something out? I feel like they either started producing with.
I think we've seen so many businesses adapt to the different regulations, and the Iowa gummies I think are funny. The 2 milligram little bits and the oh, good old Iowa.
Well, yeah, I do think that'll be the deal. It's like, how are we treating hemp? What products are we regulating and not regulating in hemp? Are we going to force it into like industrial stuff, or are we going to keep it in like recreational?
All right, so the fight for hemp, or the fight on hemp,
about hemp,
here to stay. Perhaps the new 420 of our industry.
It's gonna get loud.
It's going.
I think 2 decades ago, if you would have talked about hemp, not many people would likely know what you're talking about. And now I think it's a word that is very divisive in our industry.
Isn't it the group that makes the ice cream? Hemps?
Yeah.
All right, good family-owned business.
Hemps, or with a K. If you want to sponsor our show, reach out.
I was going to say, no, that's Kemps. You're thinking of the African singer.
There we go. Hemps, if you want to sponsor our show.
And Tanner, you say, no, that's Temps.
Oh, Temps. There we go. The sponsor. Yeah.
And we go on forever like that. Yeah.
I'm having a hard time coming up with any more.
No, I couldn't even. I was like, nothing even rhymes with hemp. I gotta go something that sounds.
My brain was blimp was what I went with.
That would work.
Well, good thing we got more categories. So let's move on to the next one. All right, another strain one for you guys. Now, this made huge waves across the heady hash community. Have you guys heard of the cultivar Skittles before?
Skittles, yeah.
All right, so defined in the industry, it goes back to 2016. It won the Emerald Cup. It's been a powerhouse since then. But 2024 was like the year of Z. Now, we have a bunch of major events across the world. Masters of Rosin, Ego Clash, both in California and Barcelona, and the Smoker's Jacket in New York. So 4 different communities all having these contests. Skittles or Skittles Crosses all claimed the top spot at every single competition. And some of them, it was even the second year in a row. At Ego Clash, Zeboof, a cross between Super Boof and Skittles, has won now for the second year in a row. Okay. Do you guys think Skittles is one of those cultivars that we'll see in crosses for years to come? Like, GMO or Blue Dream or whatever be it? Or do you think it's just sort of a moment in time and we'll sort of get sick of our sweet flavors in the next couple of years?
I can see that one being stuck like resin.
It's sticking around.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's sticking around. It's just so accessible. Whether you know every flavor profile or have never tried any strain before, like, you can enjoy it. And it's one of the first ones I like when I really started keeping track of, like, oh, I'm not just going and buying one marijuana, please. Like, I'm actually paying attention to what I'm getting. The Z crosses were just prolific. So that's I think we're sticking like yummy resin.
All right, stuck like resin. There we go. Well, so we're about halfway through. We've got Super Booth being named Strain of the Year, Jay-Z's brand going up in smoke. We've got the presidential candidates going up in smoke. But that hemp crackdown may be here to stay, and Skittles is stuck like resin. So we've got just a couple more here. Another big news story from the year. The DEA proposed rescheduling cannabis. Now, you guys might not remember this because it's been so goddamn slow, but back in May of last year, the Department of Justice submitted a proposal to officially reschedule cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3. In the audio version of this podcast, way back 3 years ago, we were talking about, hey, it's looking like we might reschedule. Do you think that will be a major shift in how we look at cannabis? Do you think it could change how states operate? Or do you think rescheduling is just sort of a regulatory shift and then business as usual?
I think it's a lot about what the banks want to do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whether the banks recognize that as, like, okay, is this the threshold that we now need to be able to, like, want to get involved?
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's going to drive a lot of people's decision making, I think.
I'm stuck between stuck like resin and the new 420 because like it could be a thing that really squashes out small craft. Like to be legal in craft could become impossible with rescheduling. Just like because like what risk are the banks going to try to take? It's not going to be like, you know, John and Tanner's Northeast Grow. It's going to be like bigger companies and but also makes space for smaller places, smaller banks and financial institutions to get in there and kind of we need it though. That's like the messed up part is it is something that it'd be best if it was just completely unscheduled, but like it's the best way forward now.
Well, no,
if that's what we're gonna do. It's
the in between I like as a good. It's
but it could
probably gonna stick around, but maybe
it's up in stickiness.
Up in
stickiness. There we go. All right, a couple more. We'll move through these ones a bit quicker. Puffco launched a new device this year called the Pivot. You guys probably heard me talk about it. In fact, I even brought it into the studio a couple of times, but now it's sitting on my shelf at home. And the question that I have for you is, do you think the Pivot will be, as Puffco said, the pen killer? Will we as an industry move away from the Pendrick Lamars, as people have been calling them, the Benjamins, or are we gonna, you know, is that sort of stuck around? Do you guys think the Pivot is here to stay, or you know, our pens sort of stuck?
There's absolutely a space in the market for that device. The folks like yourself are going to love something like that. But I think there's so many people that are driven by the convenience factor and the not, like, they can just whip it out of their pocket. There's no thinking to it. They just pop, turn it on and hit it. And so, like, I think it serves its purpose excellently well. But, yeah, is it here to be a game changer? Who knows? I don't think so.
I don't think we'll see. I'll say puff pass. It'll be like around. We'll talk about it as new ones come out. But it's like
I remember where I was the moment that the iPad was announced.
Oh,
do you think I'll remember where I was when I first read about the Pivot? Like, I remember now because I was just like a couple months ago. But do you think 5 years from now I'll be like, oh, it all connected in that moment? Or do you think
maybe you will?
Yeah,
maybe you will. You
the heady boys.
You lock it in pretty well. So yeah, maybe you.
All right, that's fair. Well, we'll let that one go up in smoke. All right, next one, Seth Rogen. Have you guys heard of that guy before? Yeah, there we go. Have you guys heard of his brand Houseplant?
Sure have.
All right, so they sell smokeware. If you want like a $70 lighter, you can go and get a cool artsy little ceramic one. But they launched a hemp-derived beverage. You can now get Houseplant the drink. Sort of tying into the Jay-Z one that we did earlier.
So that's what
Do you think Houseplant the beverage is going to stick around? Will this be Seth Rogen's deep soiree into cannabis, or is this just sort of up in smoke?
Up in smoke.
Up in smoke.
Yeah,
I like his pottery.
I doubt
I like the ceramics, but I don't think this is the first time hearing about it as well. So.
All right, that's fair.
It's just called Houseplant.
Yeah, it's just called Houseplant. So, yeah, that's up in smoke. That's gone. Sorry, Seth. They're 3 milligrams. You can get 4 of them for $20.
Jeez.
What?
Yep. So you're getting a total of 12 milligrams.
Do some
for
market
$20.
research.
That's some
Seth.
Hollywood prices
Yeah,
right there,
do
baby.
some market research.
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
Your buddies at Can are gonna whoop you if not.
Oh yeah. All right, we got 2 more here. Yeah. The penultimate one. OCM, the Minnesota Office of Cannabis Management, canceled their social equity pre-approval lottery and moved forward with the first round of full licensure. Do you think this will be one of those moments that we'll keep talking about for the next few years? Or do you think our industry rolls out and people sort of forget about the pre-licensure period? Is this up in smoke? Is it stuck like resin? Is it maybe an in-between? What do you guys think?
It's tough.
Stuck like resin, but like the bad taste in your mouth.
Yeah.
I think it's
yeah.
Can be ignored, but it sucks.
Yeah, it's like it's not like a fun, pleasant flavor.
Yeah.
But you can't Listerine that shit.
Yeah, that's fair. It's like eating really bad food. You sort of remember it, and hopefully you remember it for a reason.
You never go back.
Don't do it again.
Yeah, I don't think people cared too much. And it's like, I will say, the people who did care were like the people who got denied, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like all those people will find a way to either feel rectified or get in the industry.
Fair.
So like outside of that,
yeah.
I guess it's just like,
so like puff pass. We
about
knew about it. We
Yeah.
heard about it. It was a moment, but now it's sort of, once those licenses go out, we probably won't think about it much more.
mm-hmm.
Yep. Right, that's fair.
Yep.
Perfect. And then the last one, I had to save a fun one for the end. Snoop Dogg lit up the entire world by this year carrying the Olympic torch in France. He said, "I look at this as a prestigious honor and something that I truly respect. I'm going to be on my best behavior. I'm going to be on my best athleticism." Do you guys think that the moment of Snoop carrying the torch, signifying the lighter that we all have lit throughout our lifetime, passing our joint to the friend, passing that Olympic torch flame onward, will this be a moment that cannabis remembers forever? Or is this just something that you guys are learning about for the first time right now?
Chills, Tanner. I have chills.
I know, seriously. I'm re-seeing it. I'm playing it back in my head as the momentous occasion it was.
I can see him just like walking
long, skinny arm.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I don't know if it's gonna be like in the zeitgeist as like influential like we need it to be, but maybe we can be the voice for that change.
Yeah.
I'd buy a shirt with Snoop on it.
Dude, that's literally a shirt or a flag. I get that.
Snoop Dogg, if you want to come on the show, email tanner@mncannabiscollege.org.
Mm-hmm. We're here.
We're here.
We'd love to help with that.
If you're ever in the Twin Cities.
That's the new 420. I didn't think it was.
Yeah.
60 seconds ago, but now
We're going to make it.
Snoop's torch.
Snoop's torch. That is, I didn't realize
Because,
that.
like, thinking about it, though, it is like such. If you think of 1990s Snoop Dogg on trial for murder, and then you see 2024 Snoop Dogg carrying the goddamn Olympic torch, like, that's like a huge win for us in the community.
Totally.
In the stoner community.
Yeah.
Do you think he lit a blunt off of the torch?
Oh, I feel like he must have tried.
I feel
Maybe
like
he saved some fire from it.
It went through his mind, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
He's gotta.
He's gotta. Dude, I just can't see him not like having one on.
I choose to believe he did.
No.
Yep. I think it's the official
Shirt
canon of the
Snoop.
show. Yeah.
I'm sure you already have them up.
In
I'm
fact,
sure he already has shirts.
wow. Now I even want like a custom made lighter that's like Snoop holding up the torch. That when you like flick it, then the light, like the torch lights up.
In the red, white, and blue. That'd be sick.
All right. Top moment of the year. Snoop lighting the torch.
Snoop lighting the torch.
All right, y'all. Well, we're going to take a short break here. When we get back, we're going to be doing the high note. And, John, you're going to be stepping out. So thanks for joining us for this game. It's always a treat to have you here.
Thank you guys for having me. It's always nice.
You're such a gem.
Participate.
Oh, absolutely. Well, what do you think? Let's throw this in before we do the wrap. What do you guys think was the moment for cannabis in 2024? Is there something we didn't talk about? Do you disagree? Do you think Jay-Z's brand shutting down is going to be the thing we all talk about for years to come? Drop it in the comments. We disagree, but we want to hear your thoughts.
I know what I'll be thinking about. That doobie dabbler.
Doobie dabbler.
Oh, that was a big Minnesota
Dude,
cannabis.
honestly,
Dude, that
thing.
was a big moment.
That is like one of the events where people who don't talk about weed, who don't really know the industry, heard about that and were around it. Like it's like being out in stores. Like that is one where when I say it, someone will be like, "Oh, my sister went to that." Maybe I hang out in the South Metro a lot too. So,
But there's a reason that I keep mispronouncing the Dabbler Depot is the Doobie Dabbler because
It's all chaotic, yeah. And then you got the seed and sesh, and then you got the beer dabbler, and then you got like all the dabbler.
tell you
dabbler.
after, actually.
Yeah.
we'll drop it in the comments. What was your moment? I want to hear. We'll be right back. Ever felt like running a cannabis business means running in circles just to get basic banking? Union Bank and Trust gets it. They've been helping cannabis businesses for over 10 years, solving problems like securing accounts, managing cash flow, and navigating regulations. No more jumping through hoops, no more runarounds. Just straightforward banking solutions built on trust, integrity, and performance. That's unionbankandtrust.com.
Hi, I'm Allie Mann, co-founder of Moonlight Cannabis, and today I'm going to talk to you about our 3 signature gummies, Crescent Moon, Half Moon, and Full Moon, appropriately named to take you through the cycles of the moon based on your dosage. All of these products are going to have the similar effect, just the level of how you're going to feel it and how deeply you're going to feel it will differ based on Crescent, Half, or Full, whichever one you go with. So Crescent Moon is our brand new gummy. It's 2 milligrams THC and 4 milligrams CBD. So Crescent Moon is for those who are very new to this, right? 2 milligrams is a very low dose. 4 milligrams of CBD will still help offset that worry or anxiety or paranoia sometimes you might feel if you just took THC. Half Moon was the one we launched first. This is kind of our signature gummy. It has THC and CBD. It's a 1-to-2 ratio because a lot of times when people take THC by itself, they can experience some anxiety or paranoia. And in our research, it's found that adding CBD can kind of offset some of those negative side effects that sometimes THC can have. So that's the point of having the CBD. This is the one I take every night. Full Moon is 10 milligrams THC to 10 milligrams of CBD. So this is for people who maybe want to feel the THC a little more.
Crescent Moon is a watermelon flavor. And how we come to these flavors is just flavors that we like. For Half Moon, we have 2 different flavors. We have strawberry, we also have pineapple. And then for Full Moon, we just have 1 flavor. It's a raspberry lemonade, which is my personal favorite flavor.
It's extremely important to manage your dosage. Start with a quarter, start with a half, try it every night. Don't take another gummy in 20 minutes because you don't feel it, right? Give it a good 2 hours, maybe wait till the next day and really document and record to yourself how it made you feel. And then you can kind of play around with which gummy and which dose of that gummy is right for you.
You can find these 3 products at Dabbler Depot THC all around the Twin Cities.
Which is actually good because our first question of the interview is, what's your preferred type of milk?
My preferred type of milk is whole milk and chocolate milk mixed together at a 1-to-1 ratio.
Wow.
That's fucking crazy.
That's like pathological.
You want to know where that came from? I mean, it was Granny Smith apples and peanut butter and 1-to-1 milk, and that was how I got through freshman year of college.
Wow. 1-to-1 milk. I've never heard of that before.
It fills you up, right?
I suppose. I thought you were going into, Aaron has this bit he likes to do about raw milk. He was telling me about all the values of raw milk and how we really should be including it. And then he'll get to the end and be like, but don't drink raw milk. I thought you were like doing that, and then I realized like, oh no, this was a legit thing. So the 1-to-1 of like straight cream.
Well, so you can see that the color of it is not like fully dark chocolate milk. So I just poured whole milk into my chocolate milk.
Okay. Do you have to drink half of the straight chocolate milk first? And
So like I out of a 2-cup Pyrex like measuring cup last night, I just made like a 1-to-1 there, and that's what I drank out of last night. And then since I had like half and half of each receptacle, I consolidated the halves of the receptacle into one, recycled.
When you're trying to start dating people and you say, "Yeah, I cook," is that what you're talking about? No. All right. We'll get to the real interview.
I love these cold opens.
Well, they're so funny because, like, I mean, honestly, you could really talk about anything. It's a very
and that's what I love about this podcast that I've learned over the past couple of years is that cannabis is what brings all these people together. But at the end of the day, like, there's so many similarities between people, and like, you know, I might not like the same food as they do out there, but there's something that we all have in common that we can talk about, and it becomes a lot more fun when you're stoned. Like everything. I'll think about that milk one for a while, though. That one's...
You're more than welcome to try. I mean, it's going to be a staple.
I don't drink milk. I was raised in a Jewish household where we just knew that you were going to be a bother to others if you drank milk. And
so you still don't drink milk?
I don't. No, I have to say, and I don't mean this like negatively, I don't think I have since I was like a young kid. Like, I think since I was 7 or 8, I haven't drank straight milk.
Is this part of the reason that, like, when we were talking about the cage match, if it was you versus me, that I was definitely coming out?
Oh, that absolutely plays into it.
Yeah.
I think sort of like how the type of milk that you drink defines who you are as a person. The lack of me being able to even process milk defines who I am as a person.
You're kind of skinny, and I'm a little thicker too. So I mean, like, you know, you think about like just like what you eat as a kid, and you know what you did or didn't drink too, and you know, like I don't know, it was like rice, meat, milk, you know, very basic Midwestern stuff. It wasn't like we didn't eat fast food, but it was like basic Midwestern, right?
So let's sort of make a comparison here. You and I both played hockey. Did you break bones playing hockey?
I never broke a bone playing hockey.
Okay. In one season, I broke 3 bones. I broke my collarbone. By the time that I recovered from that... Oh, no, actually, first it was...
Hold on.
Yeah.
One at a time. The
Okay.
collarbone's the first one.
No, so actually the collarbone was the last one because that put me out for the whole rest of the season.
What's the first
So
one,
the
and
first-
how did they happen?
All right, so the first one was I caught a puck, which you could do because you were a goalie. I was a center player. So my glove had just like a thin piece of leather right there. Puck went right to my hand, shattered part of my thumb, and then broke my wrist.
Was it like a shot, or were you like actually just trying to like catch a puck and like put it in play or something?
So what you need to know is that I was in 6th grade. So I think I was like, this is a strategic play, and not really thinking that someone just shot a puck, and now I'm like, trying whatever be it. So my favorite story about that one is that I was clearly injured. My hand was starting to swell. It was all red, but it like wasn't bleeding. And my team was really short bench that night. And so I went in.
So you had to play.
So I told my mom, Mom, I think I need to be done. And she went, your team members have done so much to support you. You got to get back out there. And I finished the game. And then at the end, one of my players' dads was like an emergency room doctor. And he looked at that and went, oh, you definitely should get that checked out. And then we went to the doctor and I got x-rays and I was out for many games. And then came back 3 games later. Some guy 2 feet taller than me checks me into the board, squishes my little body, and collarbone out. My team did really well that season, though.
Okay, but more of like a brain like situation and compatibility issue that led to that injury.
Yeah.
'Cause you're trying to process things like really fast in hockey, so it's like understandable that like you can make a decision to do something and regret that quickly. But
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think this was one of those of I'm learning what in hockey hurts. And I learned that day. do not try to catch the puck. If someone's like passing, it's like in the air, like, oh, all right, grab it, shoot it down, whatever. You're not the goalie. Do not try to
What's
grab
the
it.
second broken bone?
So so wrist and thumb were all together in that one.
So that counts as one.
All right, so then I only broke 2 bones. So then the second one was the collarbone, and that was where. And there's a great picture of me lined up. We're like getting ready to do the face-off, and this guy is seriously like 2 feet taller than me. Because this is 6th grade when some people have hit their growth spurt. Shockingly, Tanner didn't. Plays into our whole conversation.
Because he wasn't drinking milk.
It wasn't drinking milk.
At a 1-to-1 ratio.
At a 1-to-1 ratio of chocolate to whole milk. And so I got squished a good 45 seconds into the game. That was it. That was the end of my hockey career. Hung on my skates.
Squished.
Yep. Well, so we're sitting here today with John Dugas of Superior Molecular. John, thanks for coming in the studio today. I'm excited to talk with you a lot about the role that you've had here in Minnesota's cannabis industry, to talk a little bit about your hockey, but mostly to talk cannabis. But first off, tell me a little bit about what was your introduction to cannabis itself? When did you start consuming it? What was sort of the thing that led that all off?
Well, so what was kind of funny, like speaking of hockey, is I would describe like my high school hockey experience as like borderline militaristic. So my 18th birthday was like pretty much on my high school graduation, and my brother had this college party at Davidson where he went to college, and it was called Spring Frolics. And so I started visiting him my senior year of high school for Spring Frolics, and actually I smoked out of like a PAX vaporizer.
Okay, very
cool. First time was my first time smoking weed. I was 17, like almost 18. There was no way in hell that I was going to get away with smoking weed in that hockey program, and nor did I want to necessarily. It wasn't anything like against the plant. I just, had other things going on, and and so, yeah, weirdly, it was like on my brother's college campus in North Carolina, smoking a PAX in his dorm room was the first time I ever smoked weed.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I think of like people who were introduced to cannabis through like the joint or maybe through the water pipe or the bong, and now it's cool being part of this generation that's like, no, our introduction was the high tech of cannabis.
Well, yeah, and it quickly became like one hitters and learning about everything else, right? But it was like to your point, like that for that being like a first experience, go figure, right? It's a very it's not what you would hear typically, right?
Totally.
So, yeah.
And so set us in time a little bit. You graduated from college from high school 2013,
2013, right? And then college 2017.
And you were in Colorado during that time. So you were there really as legalization was like coming into the full flooded that it is today.
Yeah, so I mean it kind of just seemed normal to me where I think by the end of my freshman year of college, I actually went to St. Scholastica, in a back-assward way. I ended up at Colorado College, and that's where I was supposed to play hockey, but just ended up there as a student. And it being right in the heyday sort of thing, like I think I was more interested in weed like my freshman year in Duluth as like just a typical consumer. You're hitting your pinchy or hotboxing your car before a movie. But there was like a couple folks in Colorado that really, because of that timing and these medical things and you being able to get a purple card, relatively easily,
for sure.
It certainly like helped accelerate my curiosity in that direction. Right.
Because your introduction was PAX, but when you were in that Colorado market, were you mostly a flower consumer? Were you doing, edibles were around, but I think they weren't the large market that they are today. What sort of was your go-to?
So I've never been an edible guy.
Okay.
They make me feel trapped, and I think that somebody last week was telling me it's just like you can't like undo it. Like, like if you smoke weed or take a dab, you can always drink more water or go outside for some fresh air. Do some push-ups. There's things you can do to sort of like, snap out of it. And that's just kind of like stoner pro tip 101 for some people, but you're sort of at the mercy of anything that you ingest or consume. And so, at the time it was a lot of flower, like dorm room joints, like, when people like had dab rigs and like hash was becoming a big thing there. There was like a strain of hash there and a lot of flower and just, more like classic college smoking, hot boxing, so primarily flower, but some dabs. I think the evolution of the dab pen still wasn't even involved at that time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so what brings you back to Minnesota? So you were out in Colorado. Talk us through that transition coming on back.
So I guess like the funny thing is like in Colorado, the first guy that I met at the dispensary down the street from Colorado College, he was a McAllister grad.
Oh, okay.
And so when I got my purple card and walked into this dispensary, because I guess it starts a little earlier than like coming back to Minnesota. There was a guy, and I probably shouldn't say his name and won't, but he was wearing a Minnesota Viking shirt when I walked into this medical dispensary with my purple card, and I was 19 at the point, and now I'm 29 for reference. But oh god, when I walked in there and saw that this guy had a Vikings like polo on, I was just like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, it was crazy. And so this guy ended up becoming a very close friend where like the law in Colorado said you could buy up to 2 ounces per visit. This guy seemed to have thought that the laws weren't really clear on how many visits you could make in a day.
Totally. Yeah, you leave the store, you go out to your car, you're coming back. Man, you're visiting the store again, right?
Yeah, and more or less, like I started doing like a lot of my homework in the car in between these visits. Very interested in business, very interested in the cannabis thing, very interested in actually how nice the guy was being a McAllister guy and me being from St. Paul, but him wearing a Viking shirt. That, and then the guys that I was playing golf with in like the Skins money games at Patty Jewett. There was another guy there that kind of got me the backstage VIP pass. But like, I think those guys are really, formative people. I think just pivoting back to Minnesota, that kind of set that whole thing up.
Very cool. Yeah, I feel like it's such a fun experience of meeting people in a dispensary and being like, oh, we both come from like that same little part of the country. And here you are in the cannabis industry, and here I am interacting with you. And man, could you imagine if we were doing this back in Minnesota? And it's cool now, soon, getting to a point where that will be a reality.
Oh yeah, no, totally. And I mean, and that was kind of like, the center thesis is that, watching how the market evolved from, 2013, 2014 to 17 out there, there was just more opportunity here. There was always going to be more opportunity there. It hadn't been legalized yet. You don't want to go compete with, the established, right?
Yeah, totally. And at that point, I mean, it's not like they had programs in Colorado to try to help support small entrepreneurs and small businesses. Their legalization was as sort of bare bones as you get. It included no equity, no trying to undo criminal provisions. It's legal. You can open stores. What else do you want?
Well, and that's like the crazy thing is I think I was too young to really understand what really went into making Colorado a legal state at that point in time, because, I was, quickly pivoting from this Minnesota like high school hockey tranche to thinking you're going on one path to, boom, now you're in Colorado. It's hard to believe that just 2 years separated from like some of my, high school experiences that I was in a dispensary in Colorado at age 19, trying to wheel and deal and figure out, what to do. It seems really stupid when you think about it now, but it like obviously makes a lot of sense, 10 years later, right?
Well, and like everything is clear in that rear view mirror. And I think thinking of the lessons that you were learning when sure you're going to dispensary and buying products, but you're interacting with that supply chain, you're learning about what makes good products, you're learning about that retail front. I feel like there's so much that you can learn from going to states and just interacting with a legal cannabis market that prepares you for coming to Minnesota and sort of knowing what some of those pieces are that need to be filled.
No, definitely. And I think, as I get to travel now, for Superior, I think that's like my favorite part is like, because we did things so backwards here in Minnesota, I get to go check out their legal cannabis industry. As a fan, like I'm a fan of like Dirty Arm Farm and, the Echo guys. Like I like those smell of like Portland weed as compared to other states as weed. Maine was a little disappointing, but like they have really good heady culture there, like outside of the dispensary. So that's been, I think, the most fun is like checking out all the heady, spots while we're out, like checking out like beverage co-packers and stuff like, and actually doing our jobs, right?
Yeah, totally. It's the fun of like I've heard people who work in the alcohol industry talk about how like I get to travel the world and see wineries and like go and explore this product in a way that people don't even understand. And it's so fun and it's my job. And I totally can empathize with the idea of like, we're going to Vegas, we're having to wheel and deal for a week, But then we're partying with these people in the evening. We're doing dabs with them and like celebrating why we're all doing this in the first place.
I think that was the awkward thing, in my early 20s, you're trying to learn so much, you sort of feel like an imposter, like it's maybe more of an internal mental analysis of how much you feel like you've accomplished of your goals, versus like, looking at other people in places, like in Vegas or, other industry meetups where people are accomplishing their goals. Right. And I think that's really, it's always a good measuring stick, right? In that sense of like, hanging out with people. But like, it's also, I think that's where a lot of people can get lost in this industry is like, lost in the sauce, necessarily is because like you still have to get back to fundamentals. And, maybe to use a basketball analogy, like Tim Duncan had the bank shot and could box out and rebound. And like the guy was like the big fundamental. And so no matter like where you are at in cannabis, no matter how much you like to consume it, you have to like bring it back to like, fundamentals, right?
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's a business.
Yeah.
Business.
Like we're not special because like we're in weed. Like actually, we are special because we're in weed.
Yeah.
But your business is actually going to be treated, more poorly because you're in weed and more unfairly because you're in weed.
Totally.
And not the other way around. So
yeah, you're not exempt to the things in the market that cause restaurants to shut down or cause CVS to close their doors. Like can happen to dispensaries too.
You don't want to get me going on restaurant shutdowns, Tanner.
So then let's move on. So moving on to the founding of Superior itself. So people know you today, I think, as the guy, the face himself behind Superior, perhaps even behind like the beverage emulsion industry in Minnesota.
Yeah.
But what really was it that caused you to get that all started?
So in 2017 of like May, graduate from Colorado College, and I was sort of being like a stoner bum on the couch for, probably like a 3 to 6 month period, like living with my college girlfriend. She had moved back with me. I don't know. At this time, you're questioning your consumption habits and your consumption patterns, and you're trying to figure out your professional life, and you're wondering if your, patterns that you developed in college are impacting your abilities to become successful in, the quote unquote real world.
Yeah, totally.
And so weirdly, I had moved next door to the J&S Bean Factory, which is, oddly become my favorite coffee shop in St. Paul. But, my old man had actually reached out to me after 3 or 4 months of being a stoner bum in my house that I had moved back to here in Minnesota. And no job prospects or anything. I decided to not really go to dental school because of a back issue and not wanting to like bend over and have spinal issues.
Because was that your plan prior?
The whole plan was dental school. Okay. And so, because I like to play golf, and so you could kind of.
I love that for sure.
Yeah. Probably not the right reason to be in dental school is because you like to play golf, and so quickly that evaporated. But I give my old man credit because, as up and down as our relationship has been, he was basically just like, come do anything in my laboratory for $20 an hour because like you're basically fucking it up. And honestly, he was right. And that's when I sort of started figuring out that the Department of Agriculture, through some of my time when I was helping him set up some lab machines and clearing out his warehouse, I started figuring out that the Department of Agriculture would grant you a hemp license to process stuff for CBD, and that the scientific process really wasn't all that different than extracting THC.
Totally.
So I would say that was really, that in and of itself is really what happened. It wasn't like I moved home with this idea. It wasn't like I had like this beverage emulsion, ingenuity idea from like 2017. It was really just, kind of trying to help clear out a family warehouse. And my dad trying to get me off the stoner couch. And then, just some self-research. I don't know, kind of crazy.
But I love that. So now today, Superior is able to do so much, from gummies to water emulsion to perhaps a future adult use market. But what were you focusing on back in 2017? You said CBD is one. I mean, people, I'm sure, remember the boom of like 2019, 2020 when there was CBD everywhere. Like there has never been more cannabis grown in Minnesota legally than that summer. And
so I guess the idea and how because it was like phase one was clear out this warehouse for my old man, right? That was like before any of this, like about like, hey, there's farmers that have this glutton of biomass and like they need somebody to process this stuff. And so like, fundamentally, like my dad's a physicist and an engineer, but also ran his own business. So he's he's very privy to capital equipment and understanding, how things get processed. And so I think like when we saw that the number one problem with the Department of Agriculture and what they were kind of screaming to the high havens about is there's nobody here to process this hemp. Now, what they didn't tell you is that there's nobody here to process this hemp that we really want to make rope, fiber, and paper, not all of the other stuff.
Yep.
And so that was really the crux of why we bought a CO2 extractor, was to process CBD biomass.
Very cool. So to walk through a little bit about how water emulsified beverages get made. And now, like, you don't have to get into the deep science of it, but more people know the cannabis plant. They've become really familiar with that, what it looks like when it grows. They become really familiar with those cans that you see all over that have THC, CBD, whatever cannabinoid in them.
Yeah.
What is it that actually takes that plant and turns it into those beverages?
Yeah, so to kind of like, I guess, piggyback off your previous question and like to, follow up on this one, successfully making the oil and processing the oil is sort of the precursor for all of that. I think in an educated way, we sort of read the right paper first at the right time. So, you're able to sort of glob the cannabis oil onto, some people will call it a surfactant, some people will call it emulsifier, some people will call it like a polymer, but you need something to attach it to because it's really not water soluble, it's water dispersible. We're really using different, isolates,
Is like binding agent, is that the right term perhaps?
It's a great way to think about it, right? So like you have like the cannabis, a binding agent, and then water, and then, a small amount of some other, things maybe in that matrix. And you're really, I guess the premise of like emulsifying anything is in nano is like particle size, right? So you're accelerating large globs of like weed oil through a really small tube. And like, I guess like to think about it, if you're a person, if I have like a really big tanner and I need to shove tanner through like a child like park slide, and you're like big tanner, you have to bloop into smaller tanners to get through this, to get through the slide. And so it's no different in cannabis globs, where we're just accelerating particles through really small tubes at high pressure to break them down and thus stay, in suspension. And I think there's multiple ways to accomplish success in emulsion, right?
So put like very plainly for people that are listening at home, it's not as if you're taking like a dab and like mixing it into a soda machine and now you've got a bunch of THC in that beverage. There's an actual like chemical process that happens in between to make it so that we can put that THC into a beverage and not just have it be like goo.
I would say it's a physical process.
Okay, all right, for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that there's never a chemical conversion of anything. It's really, I would think about it as a suspension of oil particles in water.
Okay.
Which I guess is I guess like what an emulsion is, right? Like,
but so let's visualize it. So for people who are watching on YouTube, we actually have some of that emulsion in a process, which is these soda drops. So we're not going to do like a whole plug thing, but just as a little description.
We can kind of plug it though.
All right, yeah, we can totally plug it.
This product we can plug. The other
what
ones
are soda drops?
Well, they're beverage enhancers, right? And so, like, the state has had a really hard time, with, like, we tried to put 10 lines on the back of the product to make it really accurate for dosing, but because it's a liquid, they said it was a beverage, and so we had to put just one line. Okay. But they're beverage enhancers, and so the idea is that we didn't want to, like, beholden the consumer to, like, having to buy a $6 to $10 single can of, stuff, more or less.
So that's what these guys are here.
Yeah, and these are... I think really, sort of nifty because you can kind of break them off. We sell singles or we sell 5-packs, but they're 3 mLs. And so, we make a variety of different cannabinoids, but you can sort of twist this top off and, dose your, drink. So like I can just take my water bottle, for lack thereof a better term and, just, squirt it right in there. I'll shake it up just because it's easier. But before I do that, I'll just put this cap back on. And this is
they're resealable.
Yeah, this is like my favorite part of the thing. And that's why like we're so like key on like trying to make these like consumer education videos this year. Because like you can just put this back in the fridge. Like I reseal like, my, like what there's
like THC chocolate milk. You can't sell it in a store, but you certainly can make it at home.
I should have put it in my chocolate milk, but it's more or less it's a great way to bring the power back to the consumer in a discreet way. Like a lot of people not to like totally rat on everybody, but they like these for like Twins games and Wild games because they can buy like a Sprite or a Coca-Cola and not have to buy like a $17 beer, but instead they get like a really cheap cannabis beverage now.
Yep. They're fun to bring into the XL. They're the scanning equipment that they have doesn't pick up on water emulsion.
They're fun to allegedly bring into the XL.
Yeah. As the seller of the product, you would never recommend that people do it.
But already mixed, dude.
And so, functionally, the ingredient that brewers are adding into their process to create THC beverages, is it that much different than this?
It's not that much different than that. I mean, the subtleties of I think the awkward thing for us is that we were sort of those like stoner kids, or I think like the persona of the company is like the stoner kids that were really good at mad science. And so it's not that much different. But when we start talking about the complexities of like what liquid emulsions are and aren't, even this year, I think like reflectively at BizCon and a lot of the events, like I can clearly see that we've stepped up our game and that we know what we're talking about. We know the consistencies or not consistencies of the product. We know what the market pricing is. So
yeah, totally.
I would say that I feel like for the first time in 7 years, we're really, humming on all cylinders in terms of the emulsion complexity and, just those subtleties of,
yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think this is such a cool product because it takes that whole market of like THC beverages and makes it something that isn't just made at a brewery, which they make cool drinks, but also if you're making a mixed drink at home, if you have got apple juice, chocolate milk, whatever be it, anything can have THC in it.
Yeah, like home mocktail kits or these and mocktail kits. I mean, I think we have a lot of leg room to... Or hopefully have a lot of leg room to grow into, on that product specifically. It's exciting because that's that crossover between, what we do really successfully and like consumer packaged goods.
Yeah. Well, we're going to take a short break here. When we get back, I'm going to ask you some questions about the gummies and then also the future of Superior in adult use.
Cool.
So we'll be right back. Northern Lights is brought to you by Dabbler Depot THC. With 3 Twin Cities locations, Dabbler Depot is proud to deliver expert knowledge, finely crafted products from gummies and seltzers to grow tents and nutrients, as well as a one-of-a-kind cannabis shopping experience to all levels of enthusiasts, growers, and the canna curious. Their East Side St. Paul store, Seed and Sesh, is also the happy home of the podcast you're listening to right now. So be sure to stop by every Friday between 2 and 4 p.m. to get a live look at your favorite cannabis podcast being recorded. On top of that, you're also welcome to come to the Seed and Sesh every Tuesday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. for their home grower meetup night. Come hang out and get connected with the ever-growing cannabis community here in the Twin Cities. Dabbler Depot's Seed and Sesh can be found at 951 Payne Avenue, St. Paul. Their flagship store is located at 1545 West 7th Street, St. Paul, and their South Minneapolis location is at 4152 South 28th Street, right across the street from the Baker's Wife Bakery. Or you can shop online, dabblerdepothc.com. Dabbler Depot THC, growing plants, growing community. Northern Lights is brought to you by the Winter Beer Dabbler, Minnesota's premier craft beer festival. The winter weather will be upon us before we know it, which means the best beer party of the year is getting closer and closer. Join your fellow hardy Minnesotans at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds on February 22nd, 2025 from 3 to 6:30 p.m. and enjoy unlimited samples from hundreds of breweries, cideries, and other yummy libation creators. With general admission, early access, and designated driver tickets available, there is an opportunity for everyone in your crew to have a brew-induced blast. For tickets and more information, you can visit beerdabbler.com/festivals. Winter Beer Dabbler. So, Minnesota.
And this did age really well. Like Corridos and Rosin was like epic, other than like the music venue needed a little more space.
Yeah, it was loud and tight, but good. So here, I'll hand you the dabber tool, and I'll get you all heated up here.
Oh, I've seen this tool today.
Oh, yeah. And you like yours scalding hot, right?
I'm actually not opposed to hot dabs. We should also touch on a little bit of like Sugar Ben. Sugar Ben was a guy in Colorado who I should probably give a shout out to.
Sure. Yeah.
Sugar Ben and the lull stuff is important.
After you do this dab, I'll ask you who that is.
Yeah.
In fact, count this as me asking you. So rip this dab and then tell me.
Oh, here we go.
Tell me who that is.
I'll get this microphone out.
Jordan, these are not eye drops, so do not put them in your eyes later. Just be forewarned.
I was gonna do exactly that.
All right, good.
So thank you. Yeah.
Yep,
Wow.
glad
Make him dance. Shout out to Rochelle Gordon.
There we go. Make them dance. Thank you. Absolutely. All right, so you were telling me in Colorado, you said a name, and I've already forgotten it, and I apologize. But tell me.
Sugar Ben. So I worked at this restaurant on the south side of Colorado Springs, albeit briefly. I had I don't want to like have them call in and contest my employment there or anything, but let's call it 3 months.
Okay. All right.
And I was washing dishes.
You worked there longer than I worked at Best Buy, and I still talk about working Best Buy at the podcast.
Yeah,
so you're good.
You worked for Best Buy, and I worked for Sugars.
Perfect. All right.
And so this place had unbelievable coconut shrimp soup, man. That's like one of my favorite things to go back to see Springs for. But Ben was like the lead cook in there, and I was like kind of like dish chump. Mm-hmm. And I would eat the bacon and I would wash dishes. So I wasn't like the most productive guy on the totem pole. But this guy was growing a strain called Sour Marvin, and it was the best weed I think I've ever smoked in my life. I don't know what it is. Like, this is unverifiable. It's hard. I have minimal contact with this guy now, and it's kind of hard to figure out like what the strain even was. But he grew classic Blue Dream, and like this is like 2014, 2015 Blue Dream.
Yeah.
And then, this Sour Marvin that he had. But this was my first experience with like hash, and it was like crumble. And so it almost looked like if you took like a brick of like, Yellow Brick Road out of Dorothy's Road or whatever, and then it just like would like crumble and like pixelate.
Oh.
And
totally.
And I've never seen anything quite like this since that point. And what's really interesting through the 10-year journey is knowing like how high of a level this flower was and how high of a level this crumble was made at, and knowing how long it would take to be able to see, that level of craftsmanship. And I don't think it's coming back until like right about now, where all these like home grow guys are starting to like link up and come out with their stuff.
It is interesting that like the deeper you get into cannabis, you realize how bad some of the weed that you've smoked in the past is, but also you realize like some of those things where it's been like, wow, that was just like the right setting and product that was perfect. And I love those moments where like I can totally think of like trying Trainwreck for the first time and thinking like, oh my God, like this is it for me. And
well, my favorite strain ever I've smoked is Jean Guy.
Okay.
And so I was up visiting Vitalis CO2 extractors, not to shit on them, but just not the best systems. Mm-hmm. And there was a dispensary like 2 hours north of there in Kamloops.
Okay.
We might need to get on a map and verify that on the break. But it was a dispensary in Kamloops, and we got some flower Jean Guy, and it was like the biggest upper strain I've ever had, where it felt more like Adderall than it felt like weed.
Okay.
Which was really interesting. So it was, I'll never forget that experience. So Jean Guy.
I love those moments. I've not heard of that one before, but I'm going to need to look into that, because any of those that are more of the uplifting is my go-to. So we were talking a little bit on the break about water emulsion and sort of the beginning of it, the crux of getting that all started. Tell me about one of the first products, Lowell, that you made that actually had cannabinoids in it. Who did you work with to get it made? Tell me about the start of that.
Yeah, so we fielded an inquiry from Indeed Brewing Company in 2019. I think it was 2019. Yeah, it was definitely pre-COVID. Mm-hmm. And they were getting what I would assume to be now is emulsion from a Vegas supplier. Stuff is supposed to be 5 milligrams, was testing at 2. So on the menu, they had to go 2 milligrams. Okay. And so But to think that the first like CBD drink in Minnesota was a 2 milligram CBD drink and not a 5 milligram CBD drink because of like that issue is kind of funny, actually. Mm-hmm. And so they basically asked us if we could make this oil because we were really known for making clean distillate, off the CO2 extractor at that point. So it was a commissioned project. I mean, I don't think anybody could have expected like, what happened next, but found a way to make CBD go into water effectively.
So you guys get this going in the lab. You get CBD into water. And the rest is history. It sold out like shelves. Nobody had a problem with it. Regulators were super cool with cannabis and in edible products, right?
Yeah, it was perfect. Yeah, and here we are in 2020. No. So we were basically just like, we're going to whip it with a shoehorn, put a couple ingredients together, what's really funny is actually that same formula is pretty much the backbone of our success.
Interesting. Okay.
Still to this day, but COVID was on the horizon, not that anybody knew it. And then when people started putting cannabinoids into food products, obviously it was going to start raising issues. So when Bent Paddle started putting CBD into water is kind of when it was like, okay, like one person was kind of doing it in the hippy dippy, era of Northeast at this time. And more or less like Bent Paddle, they got folks shut down. And then COVID happened, so it was sort of a tabled issue at that point.
Yeah, because they got like literally cease and desist from the Department of Agriculture saying this is not a food product. You cannot put it in beverages and sell it to people to consume.
Entirely, and I think like the unfortunate or fortunate side, depending on how you want to look at it, is that like with COVID happening and all of these breweries being turned into like to-go windows, it just like this wasn't the issue they were going to die on. I mean, they were just trying to get like 4-packs or whatever the fuck, like, from their, which is insane, by the way. The atypical business rights that these breweries have, been exposed to is just like, it's unfair. And like, we're obviously going to see it in cannabis here for the next decade, but, it's wild, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so they never thought that this could be a fight that they could win, and they're all to-go windows, like changing their business models. So like, but we just got busy during that time because I only had like half an employee. So it was like, okay, like what can we whip into emulsion when there's only 1.5 of us just deal weeding around,
But the fight sort of continued onward. It definitely slowed. COVID put a big stop in things. But you had a very interesting role in a unique moment in Minnesota history. Around the entire world, there were news stories that Minnesota had accidentally legalized edibles. It's like, oh, shit, the lawmakers didn't realize it, and all of a sudden, now we've got THC just available on the shelves. Tell me a little bit about what the creation of hemp-derived edibles was like in Minnesota and what led up to that.
So around the time, like pre-beverage brewment, pre-emulsion, I, had a couple guys that were, working for us at the time, and they knew some kind of DC cannabis lobbyist guy that was retiring. And through that network, I sort of got introduced to, I guess, like a local, lobbyist, I guess, like pre any of these issues even developing. And, and he's a guy who's like a really like a DFL union lobbyist, like, with his background. And so like we would just keep in touch, like eat coffee and be friends. And so like when this issue emerged, it was sort of like he was like a guy that could like naturally be called and talked to about this issue. And so from that standpoint of being shut down, like the Department of Agriculture was worried about losing their federal funding if they just kind of greenlit this whole thing and said, let it go, which is kind of like what Wisconsin's doing. Like they're going to regulate it in Wisconsin, but they kind of are taking the hands-off approach, and then they're going to put the guardrails around it.
Very much so.
You know, as opposed to like we kind of went the other way.
Wisconsin is very much opting for like, the federal program, that's just what we're doing here, and then maybe a couple other things. Whereas us was very different than how the feds chose to regulate cannabis at all.
Yeah, totally. And like, I think the best thing that came from, that network or whatever in that specific moment was, me getting to know this guy. Like I grew up in a very conservative family, I would say. This guy was very DFL union. I'm very agnostic politically. Like, I kind of just want to be left alone and live my life. More libertarian, I guess, if you will. And so it made it very easy for me to sort of be the middle of the road between what was like a Republican-led Senate at the time and obviously a Winkler-led, House.
Yeah.
So,
and like, was the hemp-derived edible is something that is so mundane and like so accepted in the psyche of cannabis today. Yeah. But at the time, I feel like it was just starting to come about as something that was accepted in wider cannabis. What was the reception from cannabis people here in Minnesota when this was moving forward? Were people generally supportive?
What's really funny is that like Steve Brown was on the right side of this issue, and I could probably name 2 or 3 people that were not on the right side of that issue, but they couldn't like see beyond the forest through the trees sort of thing, and what this did or didn't open up. And like, to Steve's credit, like, he could. And so, I think that term specifically came out of the fact, like, to your point, like, Egg says you can't put this in food, so like anything that has cannabis in it now is just not food. So like, but the flip side of that is now you have like what are actually food products. Like, if you're telling me that can isn't like a beverage, and you're telling me that this bag of, edibles is not a food product, then, I think the larger, issue here is that we've had to go to these lengths to sort of show people that this can be okay. But maybe that's like the best part about Minnesota is that it's never a better, like, I guess, breeding ground for like showing that alcohol and THC can be served in the same places, and you're not seeing an increase in anything dangerous.
It's so cool having people from Colorado come here and be like, wow, people are consuming cannabis everywhere.
They can't believe it. And that's like, it's on the menus at the bars, and when you're like going out to eat and stuff,
you go to a concert, they have THC beverages there, because why wouldn't they? But 3 years ago, that wasn't normal in Minnesota. That wasn't normal anywhere.
We were at the jazz club, me and Aaron, the other night, and and this guy like ordered a Zen Pacific Punch, which happens to be my favorite THC drink. Yeah. And so I ordered one, and then the guy who was jamming the bass or whatever, he was like, "Oh, I can tell we got to play one more song," and people have had their THC beverages, and it was just like the greatest thing ever, because like even like the professional musician was referencing the phenomenon. Like,
it's such a change in the psyche of cannabis. Like, there are shifts that come about in our understanding of how this plant interacts with people, how we interact with it, how this whole industry operates. And I feel like the pocket of Minnesota, like, I always thought we were a cool industry because this is where I come from. This is the weed I smoke. But I really think we're defining internationally what cannabis regulation could look like. Are we stumbling? Absolutely. But are there also ways that perhaps we're showing that, like, places like California that are now trying to ban hemp-derived THC versus the Minnesota approach of, no, just give them a license and I guess tell them not to have heavy metals in it.
Well, I think it works better for us too, right? Because like, I guess the flip side of that conversation is like California is like the 5th largest like global,
for sure.
Like they for sure have problems, right? I think they're really stupid for doing what they did, but at the same time, for as equally stupid as they are, like whatever insane things that we see in the news about shops doing X, Y, and Z is probably like on a 5,000x scale, right? And so I don't actually, obviously there's the smoke and the mirrors side of what they're doing, which happened to hurt the beverage industry in particular, unfortunate to us. But if people aren't selling THCP in smoke shops because of it, maybe it's a good thing.
I suppose,
we're like an unintended casualty of that.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And looking at places that have adopted, sort of like we were talking about before, that middle ground approach of like, you don't need to ban it, but like also don't sell it to kids. And like, you don't need to, it's okay to say we don't have 50 milligram gummies in stores for everyone to buy, but like, maybe also don't sell THCP and like what does reasonable regulation look like around this?
Well, and I think that's kind of like, I think that really, to bring it back full circle, is like, I think that's really what, our lobbyist and, our point really was, heading into the session about the beverages and the edibles. Is like, we wanted reasonable regulation because the real itch that we had was that CBD drinks could be shipped into Minnesota and sold, but Indeed and Bent Paddle were being cease and desisted for making CBD drinks. And I just happened to be the guy who only had that revenue stream to start, my startup business. So I was very motivated in that sense. Because I didn't have anything else going for me.
Totally.
So, like, what else was I going to focus on,
Well, I think it's created one of the most unique markets in the entire country where don't yet have adult use online. I'm very curious to see how this all interacts with each other in the next couple of years. But where we have hemp products literally everywhere. Like, you can go to coffee shops, you can go to hair salons, you can go and buy cannabis in ways that I think 5 years ago we would not have seen as possible.
It just seems normal.
Yeah. So we talked a lot about the beverages because a lot of what you guys help people to do is make beverages across the entire state of Minnesota.
Yeah.
We've tried some on this show before.
Yeah.
The Ven Paloma
Yeah.
still stands out to me as like perhaps one of my favorite beverages I've ever had.
I love their Pacific Punch is my favorite.
All right, we can fight about it, but it's okay. Yeah. It's there's a lot of good products that you're a part of. But I wanted to talk about the gummies for a second because I think that's something that has really become a staple of the cannabis industry in Minnesota. Now, we've also tried Superior gummies on this show in the past, but they've never had your logo on the front of them. We've tried some mini donut flavored gummies that were incredible. We've had some honey flavored gummies on this show, but talk to me a little bit about the gummies that you guys make, the gummies you help others to make. What is that program?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess like out of the success of like the water, brewery supply thing, we knew that we had to diversify our repertoire, right? We were extractors, so we always had that in our back pocket. But in taking some great intel from other industries, like, we knew we wanted to make gummies, the dump and scrape is great when you're a small business and, trying to get by and get you to that next level. But then eventually you go to hand cranks and then eventually hand cranks turn into depositors. It's sort of the natural evolution of the edible business. But, everything's, vegan, based. We use tapiocas. We don't use gelatin. We use pectins. You could eat sushi off the floor of the facility. I mean, like we're really proud of like, the cleanliness and, what we would say is a superior standard in terms of like the facilitization of things. But, we, co-pack a lot of brands. So, Bent Paddle, longtime emulsion client. We did Paw for Paws, which, we donate, proceeds from these bags to an animal rescue, Forever Homes.
Oh, very cool.
So I wish like, this is like a winning flavor, but we need to do more things like this to start, I think, driving like in community engagement because, I think half the problem is recently, we sort of just corrected, I think, the industry standard, gummy pricing structure because like folks got to come compete with us. Like, I mean, you need to compete with the level of quality, what we think is like value or affordability. And we want to bring that value and affordability to like, positive causes. And I think, there's definitely a way to, I think, reshape this and make this more productive or more positive, financially than it's been. But it's like nice to know that we can sort of just, either private label existing brands for like, winning customers or, also do cool things like High on Pie, which tastes like pie crust, but they're gummies, which is like sort of a oxymoron. Yeah. Is that like the word?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I really appreciate that because we were talking a lot about the coming online of this edible market. I think back to July 1st of 2022, which is crazy how long ago that is, and waiting outside of a store to buy my first like quote unquote legal edible, and it was like $29 for a 50 milligram pack. Not a Superior product. I'm not trying to shame anyone, but seeing that correction in the market, I think, has been really helpful. For businesses to have that predictability, but also for consumers that now have even greater access to such an easy form of cannabis consumption.
Well, and I think like the big secret is like, Amazon sort of proved like you could sell anything and everything online. And so cannabis will eventually like, be delivered online. But, how can anybody look at the price of like raw cannabinoid ingredients, which isn't something that like the normal person who goes into a store would know. Like they're not at fault for not knowing that. But I think like us as an industry are at fault for looking at the prices of like the cost of production on cannabis and like, you know, CBD and trying to pillage the consumer. Yeah. And I think like finally now that we have enough of a foundation of business to business, we can sort of bring a lot of value back to the consumer and a lot of people that supported us over the last 7 years. And so like even this morning, you know, there was an interesting, you know, thing where it's like, you know, we make a 1-to-1 5 milligram gummy. We make a 5-to-1, you know, we're going to be coming out with 10-to-1s. Mm-hmm. You know, dealer's choice, but like the consumer is just being unfairly, you know, pillaged. That just because like we can offer a $5 bag of gummies means that we're actually selling to you straight from the manufacturer and that's high quality. We're just actually bringing you value. And I think that's like the crazy thing to me.
Yeah, that was insane back on, I think Black Friday that was, is seeing packs of gummies for like $4 and being like, oh, that's all right. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, and if folks like wanted to like, you know, scale their programs and offer more cannabinoids and like create deals and things, I think, you know, the gummies are a great business for anybody that really wants to do the effort. I think my big mistake was trying to turn like, you know, beverage clients into gummy clients, and like selling liquids and solids are entirely different things. And that was like a really painful lesson of the year.
Well, I still really like the Paloma gummies, but that's okay. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about the future. Obviously, there's still so many unknowns. We see that every day with new lawsuits being filed, with new court action, with new decisions from OCM. Insert ongoing list here.
Yeah.
But if you were able to wave a magic wand or see into the future, or whatever metaphor you want to use, what do you think the role of Superior or of John Dugas is in adult use cannabis in Minnesota?
I think like the larger question that people need to be asking, or I would hope that they're asking, is, you know, if this stuff can be sold next to alcohol, you know, why is it that we need like all of this intensive regulation? I'm gonna cough.
Oh, you're so good.
The dab is getting me.
Oh, trust me, I understand that one. That podcast of doing 22 dabs was a choice.
Marathon.
How did you do that, actually?
It was...
Legend. That's all.
Yeah, it was just a lot of dabs.
All right, we're talking legislation.
Yeah.
So I guess like I think the role that we have to play, I think, to this point was showing that this stuff could be sold next to alcohol, right? Sure. You know, there's not any increased risk to society. But the problem is that after we accomplished that law change, is like people took that, and by people I mean like, you know, Laylee and Sean, you know, took that and thought that we needed to shove Ryan Winkler's bill through at any means cost because like we had the majority. And the reality is like what we had actually done was working, and the breweries really helped to bring in a whole new audience and desensitize the whole like mystique around, you know,
for sure,
you know, cannabis. And so like, I don't understand how you can go from a place of like serving this stuff next to alcohol to going to a place where you need 17 licenses, and now you're preventing small business owners like me, you know, guys who grew up, you know, off Highway 280, you know, who have a staff of, you know, 10 other people, from, you know, trying to diversify our companies. You know, albeit, well, GTI, you know, builds out these massive, you know, landscapes for, you know, prepping their next facility.
70,000 new square feet. Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, clearly there's inside baseball going on. You know, I don't really concern myself with that stuff on a day-to-day basis anymore, because it's not productive. But, you know, more or less, I think. Oh, thanks, dude. But you know, in talking about that stuff, I think that's what's frustrating, is that we needed to jam this bill through because of somebody's ego, and what it did for people's careers politically. You know, versus like what was working and what's actually helping small business owners. And I think like to, you know, articulate, you know, Jeff Brinkman, to articulate, you know, Steve Brown, to articulate, you know, Ben Lipkin, you know, these are all like, you know, business owners that are homegrown out of the Minnesota Hemp Pilot Program. And although we all disagree on quite a lot, the one thing we can say is that those people, too, in particular, set us up to fail when what we had was actually pretty good and going to naturally set course. And so I think it's just incredibly frustrating from that standpoint. So my hope is that we can break down these multiple license barriers. First and foremost, I think that we should be incentivizing people to diversify their companies. We should be incentivizing local people to become, small, strong, vertically integrated, entities. We should be looking at these MSOs. We should be looking at this inside.
For sure. Because, we talk a lot on this show about how, craft cannabis is good, full stop. And I think there's the argument to be made that craft cannabis is really good for the entrepreneurs. It's really good operating in a market where prices are high, where licenses are low, and where you sort of have this hold on the market. And then by virtue, those companies sort of have a hold on the regulatory authority that actually regulates them. And there's the other approach of, man, wouldn't it be good for cannabis consumers if businesses could just make good, safe products and make them available to people in ways that are accessible to consumers?
I think that's sort of like the vein that I come from, right? Is that I'm sort of the political camp and not making things personal, but my political belief on this is, and this is like where I think I feel most heartbroken about cannabis is like when we were working with our lobbyist who really helped us accomplish this beverage victory, is that he understood that a lot of the hemp CBD guys were sort of the farm team that were going to be brought up to the major leagues. And so like in the next session, he sort of got a hold of the MN is ready, promised money or whatever, and abandoned that farm team because I think a lot of those guys were really strong and ready to, pivot into that thing. And it seems like a lot of those guys have kind of just been swept up in what became like now this social equity dust became this whole thing. But, to your point, I think it was as simple as rolling the hemp pilot program, CBD faction over into a 2024, pilot year.
Because sort of as you were talking about earlier, like the equipment, the processes to create the goo in CBD beverages, in CBD products and insert anything here, isn't functionally that much different.
It's THC. Not that much different in the SOPs for, pest, prevention and all these other things on the cultivation side. Not much different CBD flower versus THC flower. So I think the disservice was really done to all of the people who truly signed up for the hemp pilot program, deliver their data. You have these formal data requests and things that you're expected to do that we did, every single year for the Department of Agriculture. And it almost feels like that being like a good Samaritan in that program was really for nothing. And, I really like, Mr. Cordelay at the Department of Agriculture. He's somebody who's always been super supportive of the industry. Bureaucratically, his hands can be tied. Margaret, who's now working at the OCM,
for sure,
always been super fair and solid. I think, it's unfortunate that this thing wasn't as simple as just rolling this thing out of ag into this larger, health program, but that all of this big bureaucratical money and people selling people out and, us thinking we had local champions that were our narrative piece really set us up for this,
Yeah.
It just sucks.
Yeah, no, totally. Well, we're going to take a short break. And when we get back, I want to ask you some more questions about adult use and also show you a couple of pictures I got here. So we'll be right back. Do you want to try something different? Yeah. We've got Green Machine Bop or some Lemon Z.
This is Bop?
Yeah. So that's some Schwale genetics, Farmhouse Studios.
I had a bunch of genetics, and Bop was the one that crystallized the quickest. So I don't know if it was like a broken jar.
There you go.
It smells more like, because is this a honey bananas cross?
It's banana, orange, pineapple. So it does have that banana lineage that I do believe is a honey banana, but I'm not super positive. He has a wonderful chart that shows it all going back 3 generations that I don't have in my memory right now. What's your go-to like terp profile? If you walk into a dispensary, you're buying a jar of concentrates. What do you look for?
Food and weed. It's banana.
Okay, totally.
Yeah. So I actually really fuck with banana. I also like oranges and guavas and things like that. So like, yeah, homies like guava-y stuff. The past day or so has been very enjoyable. But like, I like banana pancakes. I like banana muffins. I like bananas. There's something about sitting by the ocean in Costa Rica and eating fresh banana that.
Fair. Yeah. I can get that one. Here, I'm gonna scoot this slightly closer to you. There we go. Yeah, banana terps I think are a really fun one. Anything that ends in berry or is a tropical fruit of some sort, I'm generally gonna say like
you're not like a gassy oniony guy.
I wish.
I think Aaron's a gassy oniony.
Love
guy.
it. GMO is his favorite. Casey had some black onion last grow season.
Okay.
That was just rancid. It was so just like gassy, funky, just like dank.
So
good.
The black onion that Wyatt was doing too was
Same cut, actually.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That thing's like a gym sock. It's like your grandmother's dirty gym sock from 1987.
Yep. We've talked about it in the show before. Our buddy Aaron, who describes when I asked him, what's your preferred turf profile? He says, grandpa breath. I want something that like I breathe that out and it's like, wow, like my grandpa just like did a big breath right in my face. Oh, yeah, I'll grab that from you and do a little schwabby.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I don't know where anything is.
No, you're good. Welcome to the studio. That's why you're the guest. That's why we have you here.
Oh, my God.
French fries have arrived just in time.
Oh, my God. Yeah.
Perfect.
Munchadelic.
Shout out to Brunson.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I'll dig in. I like the small, crispy ones.
So we've talked on the show in the past about where we think in the Twin Cities has the best French fries. I'm good for right now, but I'm definitely going to steal some in a moment here.
Those are hot.
Oh, yeah. We like to do hot dabs and hot fries on this show.
We could be here for a minute, Tanner.
We could. Yeah, that's what we're here for. I think they have perhaps some of the best French fries in the Twin Cities. So people can come down Friday afternoons, check out the podcast, get a French fry, come sit out here.
Pulled bacon.
Do some dabs.
Their brunch is fire, but the pulled bacon, dude, throw that on a salad and you can feel like you're being healthy, but you're kind of being like
there we go.
slutty at the same time. Yeah, he knows exactly what I'm talking about with the pulled bacon. That's a St. Paul.
I feel like we got to get Kale a shirt now that says healthy but slutty. Maybe not.
Brunson's pulled bacon on the back.
Doobie Dabbler. We'll stay right on it.
Dude, that stuff is dangerous, man.
Ugh. Well, so we were talking a little bit about adult use right before we went on break.
Take 2 and then take it. Sorry.
No, this is, I think, perhaps more important. People are here for the French fries. That's anytime we talk about them, we get huge spikes in views.
They're warm, and it helps kind of like itch the whatever in my throat from talking because I don't talk this much.
Well, we're happy to have you here, and I do appreciate it. So you were talking a little bit about adult use, talking about the approach that Minnesota took that has not really yet rolled out fully, but at least on paper is, I think, fair to say, the most complicated regulatory cannabis structure in the entire country. We have more license types than any other state, and we divide up that flow of commerce into more licenses than any other industry. What do you see as a better approach? I mean, talk me through a little bit about, like, as a business owner of Superior, what type of license structure would work to allow you to create products for people that they want to go and buy in a store?
I see a very similar license structure to that of what we currently operate under.
Okay.
I have a license from the Department of Agriculture to process and grow hemp.
Sweet.
I think that it's maybe a couple $100 to start an LLC in Minnesota. I think you should obtain your EIN number because everybody wants to pay taxes or should, because that's kind of like, that's the bigger issue, right? Is like, are you or are you not paying? That was the issue, the entire time. Yep. And I think that the game has sort of been rigged. I think that you don't need anything beyond that. You should be free to engage with an SD3 form.
Okay.
B2B commerce. So, in, being a little comedic about it, I really think that your freedom, to succeed or fail in business should be really as simple as your ability to start an LLC and obtain a tax ID number and obtain maybe a $500 permit from the department of whoever. Totally. Whatever they want to call themselves, it's all the same people, so like whether so-and-so's from ag or, from health, like
it's all Minnesota. Yeah.
It's all Minnesota, whatever. So like we can like make a big fanfare, but like really what they're doing is they're robbing people on application, license, fees and that's so in that sense, like I'm really for the freedom of, it should be as easy as $500 to succeed or fail.
Which I think is, especially looking at the history that we have here in Minnesota, where that's been the model. People have been buying cannabis off store shelves, going home, consuming it, getting stoned for years, totally legally. And we haven't had people widely getting sick. We haven't had products needing to get pulled because they were like of poor quality. And do you track everything in metric right now to make sure that the seed all the way through to the stream of commerce is safe for the consumer, or do you just follow good manufacturing practices like any other industry?
Yeah, so like we're coming up on a lot of like, really high level like food stamps, and like we've always operated under that standard, but getting the actual stamp is a very, very long, multi-year process, as being on the compliance side. And to your point, like, we've probably been in 50 million beverages to this point, and, nobody's been sick. Not one complaint on anything ever related, one product recall the entire time due to like a stability manufacturing issue. So yeah, I mean, again, like the statistics would indicate that like everything seems to be fine. There's probably a lot of redundant, full panel testing, but their focus should not be on taking people's money for applications. Their focus should be on regulating, where stuff is made and is it clean.
Totally. My parents hate when I make this joke, but there's not really a lethal dose of edibles, and I know because I try every night, and I haven't found it yet. So. My folks at family Christmas, they were like, "Why does the garage smell like weed?" And I think it was like because like the resin in my Puffco is really just that loud. It's especially in that bag. Sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm like, "Wow, someone was doing dabs here earlier," and I'm like, "Oh shit, yeah, that was me." So before we go, I dug into the archives a little bit, and I have a couple pictures that I want to show you.
Yeah.
And just sort of get your thoughts on, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So some of them are blurry because they go back a little bit, but tell me about this one. So bring us back to you as a hockey player. What did you play, and when did you get started in hockey?
I skated for the first time ever at Langford Park. Ended up, having a nice career at Hill Murray, and
And you were 14 the first time you skated. No, I'm just kidding. No.
I was drinking a lot of milk.
Yep.
1-to-1 ratio.
Yep.
From an early age.
And what's great is that you could be doing that right before you ice skated, and we would have no idea whether you were 5 or 25.
The funny thing about this photo is you can see this mark on my forehead.
Mm-hmm.
And I think me and my brother were wrestling like the week before.
Nice.
I think this was my sophomore year, and we were wrestling upstairs. And I remember that because I remember getting the rug burn on the side of my forehead. So that's like what actually this photo reminds me of.
I love that. Here's the next one. Anytime we have people on, I love to search them in Getty Images. And so I searched for John Dugas, and it brings up this picture from Moorhead.
Oh.
So you are the goalie standing outside at the Winter Classic. Is that right?
Yeah, hockey day in Minnesota.
Yeah, so a hockey tournament played, teams across the state of Minnesota played outside in the wonderful Minnesota weather.
it was that was a day that the ice melted. And so what was really great is I was a freshman in this picture, freshman or sophomore. I wasn't playing very much at this point is the point of this photo. Yeah, on the timeline. Like I played later in the timeline, is when I got my playing time. But I remember they had to move the net up. Only time I've ever seen this in a hockey game, no matter what level, where they had to move the net from the crease, like almost up to like the top of the slot. Like the top of the face-off dots because the crease had melted.
Oh my God.
And so it was a logistical disaster is what I think about.
All right, sweet.
Yeah.
Let's see. I got one more or two more here. This one I love because it looks as though you are actually shoving another player, but I believe that they are being shoved into you. So this was in a game versus Edina, I think.
Yeah, Edina. Yeah, that's gosh, that's who is that? Yeah, that's Anthony Walsh. He's a good buddy of mine. Hope you're doing well, Anthony.
Shout out to Anthony.
Yeah, shout out to Anthony Walsh. That's hilarious. He scored a goal on me in that game. I can't actually believe he scored that goal. But he fanned on the shot. It was a lot to unpack there. Give me one more.
All right, here we go. Here's the last one, and I just love this one so much because you're actually just barely in this picture, but this is a classic. So you guys had just won the division title, I believe, there.
This section
title. There we go. Thank you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, this was great because senior year, so you don't want your season to end. So this was actually the last Hill Murray victory in the Coliseum when they used to play the section championships in the Coliseum at the State Fair. So growing up in St. Anthony Park and having my first moment like touching the ice at Langford Park, to have the last victory on the Coliseum at the State Fair is something that I think is probably better than any hockey memory
so poetic.
Ever. Baller. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really cool.
Yeah, the Coliseum was epic.
Well, I'll make sure that Jordan gets those pictures so we can throw them on the screen and people can see what we're talking about as you're describing those. But
yeah, that sounds fun.
Yeah, looking up John Dugas in Getty Images gets some really good hockey shots. That is for sure.
Dab Lord now, right?
Yeah,
Tanner?
right. Yeah, were you on the ice just thinking about like what kind of vape carts you wanted to be able to make in the future, or what beverage emulsion you were?
You know, there was something about bleeding green there that I think like maybe I got the message on.
There we go.
Yeah, no, I did not. Like I said, I thought I was going to be playing golf and working 3 days a week as a dentist. So,
well, I'm excited for that list of alumni of Hill Murray on Wikipedia that includes like 20 professional hockey players, to also include founder and CEO of Superior Molecular, because I think well-deserved to be on that list.
Oh, yeah. No, it's kind of fun. It's, go figure, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, John, thanks so much for coming in the studio today. Thanks so much for chatting with me. For people that want to follow along with Superior, learn more about your products, what you guys are doing, where would you send people to learn more?
SuperiorMolecular.com has all the products, 2-day shipping, super great value. We have an unbelievable, amount of clients, here, Blackstack, Bauhaus, Indeed Brewing Company, Venn, just to name a few, immediate, local ones. So go check out all, their drinks. But yeah, just appreciate you having us on and supporting the community. I mean, we like making everybody's drugs. And so that's kind of like what the business plan is. And we really don't wake up with like really any other intentions of just trying to like expand access to cannabis and to make everybody's drugs. So that's
well, I'm sure people would be surprised how much THC flows through White Bear Lake. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, John, thanks again. We'll be right back.
Thanks.
Today's episode of Northern Lights is presented by North Star Law Group, a trusted partner to small businesses in Minnesota's legal cannabis industry. Whether you've already applied for a license or are just getting started, attorney Jen Riza and her team can help you build a compliant business, identify and navigate risks, put together an application, and keep you informed about the ever-changing Minnesota cannabis landscape. Are you ready to add North Star to your team? Visit northstarlaw.com/cannabis and let North Star Law Group guide you through confidently opening your doors. Again, that's northstarlaw.com/cannabis. And we're back. Welcome to another segment of Tanner's Chirp Tasting. I'm here at the Seed and Sesh with Kale. How's it going, man?
We are so back. I'm doing much better. Seed and Sesh is back, open for the new year.
Love it.
It's been a fun holiday season. Come and ask me about it. I'd be happy to tell you.
There we go.
But just happy to be back with you in the studio.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I look forward to coming back every week for the Northern Lights podcast, but this is one of those segments near and dear to my heart. So I'm stoked today to be doing some more chirp tasting. We've got an awesome jar that I brought in today, a repeat of Chirp Profile, but not a repeat producer. So today we've got Hashi Gilmore's Sour Papaya. Now, I don't actually think you were part of our Sour Papaya that we did last time when it was part of the Tea Squisher. That was the one that Steve did and got super blazed.
Yep.
Yeah,
that sounds about right.
So today we're going to be trying out that same Sour Papaya, but it made by a different producer here. And I just got to show off the jar because I think this one is hilarious. Hashi Gilmore. Man, what would Adam Sandler think? Does he know? Maybe.
Adam
Does he get a
should
cut?
He should greenlight it.
He should definitely greenlight it. Yeah. So I love the jar. It's got Adam Sandler in that classic golf attire. Let's bust this open. I'll let you go ahead and give that an open. Give it a smell. For those who are just tuning in for the first time or maybe, did a lot of dabs over the holiday and don't remember, how do we do this segment? Well, we give it a smell, we give it a taste, and then we rate it on our patented, depending, token system. 0 through 10, what do we think of the jar? What do we think of the flavor? That's what we're going to be digging into today. So first off on the nose, what are your thoughts on that? It has been a little bit chilled, but it's had some time to warm up back to room temperature.
Yeah, we've definitely got a little more nose on this one, probably just due to that temperature. But I get fruit. I get a little bit of funk, kind of rotten fruit out of it. I'll give you that too.
Yeah, definitely. That funkiness is what I love, where it smells like something has gone wrong, and that means something is right with this jar.
Oh yeah.
I want to shout out TC Drippy Melt 710. He was the guy who actually helped me hook up with this jar. He was like, "Oh man, you gotta give this a shout out on the podcast. You gotta give it a try." So we're doing it today. Let's go ahead and grab a scoop of this and load it into our Puffco so we can taste not just on our nose, but the actual taste of it.
Just a nose tasting for me, thanks.
Just the nose tasting. We got to do a Tanner's Chirp Tasting with Marcus while he's on his tolerance break, where he just smells the jar and goes, "Real nice."
That smells phenomenal.
Yeah.
But only after going.
Yeah, only after the real long sniff. And this is one of those jars, let's be real, he would probably give a real sniff to and be like, "That smells bad." But in a good way.
Smells stanky.
Smells stanky. We should have a Marcus impersonator pop-up event at the Dabber Depot sometime. Do you think you look exactly like Marcus Harkis? Come on down, do your best Marcus impression. We'll get you a dab.
That'd be great. Mm-hmm. But you can only do a nose tasting.
You can only do a nose tasting
because a real Marcus Harkis impersonator would know that he is not consuming. He's on a tea break.
There is that for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, man, you get so much of that rancid, rotten, unctuous, as Jordan would say, just flavor of that. You get almost none of the sweetness of the fruit, and instead just that this is papaya gone bad.
Yep,
but in a good way. In a good way.
You also kind of get a meat taste out of it too.
Okay.
Especially on the back of the mouth on that. It's more savory than it is sweet.
When Kelly was in the studio last time, I gave her a smell of some of the tag-along truffle that we had.
Yeah.
And she smelled it and didn't just say, "Man, that smells like cheese," which is how I describe it. It was like, "Oh, this is the rind of brie cheese," or "This is a Merlot that's been sitting out for a while." And I don't eat meat, so as a vegetarian of this show, when you say that, it gives you sort of a meaty taste.
Sure.
Does it invoke a specific type of meat, or just that general, just meaty, proteiny?
It's more of a roasted meat than it would be a fried meat, and it's more of a back of the mouth savoriness that hits you back in here. But
That's really funny that Kelly gave you extra descriptive words because every time, she'd try a new beverage when she was working here, she'd give like the most like exquisite description, and I'm like, it tastes like oranges. And that's like kind of my flavor profile in a nutshell. It's if anyone goes and watches back on the Tanner Terp tastings, it's like, yeah, it smells like this. And I'm like, yeah, it totally does smell like that. And that's usually kind of where I leave it.
Yeah. You and me both. We'll get Kelly in for this sometime, and it's gonna pop off.
She has teased that she might come in to be live audience later this very afternoon.
Ooh, all right. Well, hopefully we'll get her in. You viewers might know more than we do. Perhaps she makes an appearance on the show. Perhaps we save it for a future episode. You'll have to watch to stick around. But so we did the Q-tip test there. We've got a nice clean Q-tip. There's perhaps a little bit of burnt, but I mean, it's not plant material. It's just that was perhaps a little bit hotter than that rosin wants to be heated. But overall, pretty good. So we've done the smelling, we've done the tasting, we've done the Q-tip test. We can now come to the final part of this, which is how are we going to rate this? 0 through 10 on our token system. Kayla, I hate to always be the one to put you on the spot and make you go first, but like, what are your thoughts on that? Where would you place that sour papaya?
I think the terpene profile on it was really cool, and I'd put it at a solid 7. Like, I think it's a solid 7. I think it's really good. There's stuff that I've rated higher, and I think I probably would keep it higher. So yeah, I'd put it at a 7.
Okay, I think that's super fair. I would come in probably right around that 8. I think that this is a super unique, rancid, rotten flavor. I agree with you. It's not what I generally go for first off.
Yeah.
But this is one of those chirp profiles that I think is such a unique representation of what sour papaya is. Yeah. It's different than the other one that we had. The other one I think had way more of that fruity sweetness to it. This one is just straight rotten. And I really like that.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go with the 7.5. Maybe we'll level in the middle. Or
I'm curious about Jordan.
Yeah, what are your thoughts?
The rancidity you guys are talking about, I'm not getting. I am getting sweetness.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, I'm getting. Yeah, like.
Oh, shit.
Fruit.
We're getting called out. All right.
Well,
totally.
No,
yeah.
It might be for a very. It might be for a number of reasons, but like I really got like mango and papaya and kind of that very exotic tropical fruit profile, and the whatever you guys were talking about unctuousness.
Interesting.
It didn't come across on my palate. Well, and I didn't smell it. Granted, I didn't smell the actual jar. Maybe can I?
Oh, absolutely. Here, we'll
let me
pass
smell.
that over
Let's
to
see
you.
what the nose. If the nose is different than the old.
I was curious about the tiebreaker, so I'm glad we
got to do some sort of like, is it blue? Is it gray? Is it white dress type contest where people smell jars and.
Did you guys see that? I just smelled the microphone.
Did it smell good?
It didn't smell like this.
All right.
But like I opened the jar and then I went.
The microphone smells a bit unctuous.
It smells like Jordan's hams. All right. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. That smells rancid.
So here's something that we should try, and we can do it after we finish the segment. But doing the dab now in reverse, allowing you to start it and working it around, because it's possible that by the time we worked it around and it got to you, a lot of the chirp profiles that exhibit more of that rancidity, as we're saying, might have sort of burnt off, and you were getting more of the back notes of it, maybe more of that sweetness.
Now that I've smelled this, it did feel like diet terps, basically. What I was getting, it was like, oh, this is very light and easy. But yeah, the smell on this old Hashi Gilmore, that's something else. My God.
All right, so you got to break the tie for us. 7, 8. What do you think?
My experience with hitting the old Puffco, sponsor the show, I would put it honestly, 7.
Okay. Super fair. I think let's go with that 7. I love the tiebreaker. Hashi Gilmore, sour papaya, 7 out of 10. Pretty good. I mean, that's
a hung jury on the terp profile. So we'll have to try it.
I know.
We'll have to try it again.
Yeah, I think maybe we'll have to give this another go after we finish wrapping this up and see. Maybe it tastes different on the nail.
We shall see.
More to come.
This is just Kale trying to get free dabs.
You know what? I love it though. That's That's why we started this podcast, right? Yep. And that's been another segment of Tanner's Chirp Tasting. Kale, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, Tanner.
This was such a fun time. We will be back in just a minute.
Fuck you, Tanner.
Keeping track of your grow doesn't have to be a hassle. Meet Plant Track. That's PLNTRK, a tool built by Minnesota growers for growers like you. Track every stage of your plant with intuitive progress bars for each phase. Stay on top of your grow with text reminders for watering, feeding, and photos. And when it's time to log data, it couldn't be easier. Just scan a QR code or tap an NFC tag to instantly access your plant's details and updates. You can even log your interactions for one or all your plants in just seconds. Ask detailed questions with the AI chat powered by your plant's data and get the help that you need when you need it. It's free for up to 8 plants. Go to www.plntrk.com now and start tracking your grow.
But the thing is like all the dumb shit that they say about parenthood, like the stereotypes and stuff, a lot of it does really end up being true. And then you go through it and you're like, oh, okay. And I remember like being pregnant and having a conversation with my husband's dad. And he was like, oh yeah, when you get married, it's great. Nothing really changes though, like until you have kids. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, oh, like we're so just like, oh, love, yeah. And then I squeezed a 9-pound watermelon out of my body.
Yep.
Unmedicated.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, this changes things. And it's just the things that exist. It's like a change in dynamic in a household, change in dynamic in sleep schedule, change in dynamic in, and then also like take the last year I had 3 different jobs. So like all those changes.
I've heard it described before as like it's like going from friends to coworkers. Obviously different levels.
But
it's like
super easily
we're
like
super
that.
cool, and now it's like, oh well, we're still cool, but also like I really need you to wake up and go help that kid right now, and like I can't, and I need you to do it, and like you're my love, and like you're my friend, but also like I need you to also be my coworker.
Right. And you definitely get to that place where like you have to go, okay, are we best friends? Because like if we are, it's not just about the like you eat.
Yep. Yep.
Best friends. Because that's definitely where it goes to, because it's so easy to get mad at each other because your tension's just so high because you're a small being is screaming at you the majority of the time. It's just stressful.
Speaking of so high.
I love that.
Tanner.
That's so good.
Do you have a high note?
Oh my gosh, my high note from the week. Yeah, so I think my high note from this week was probably the jersey that I'm wearing today. Yesterday, I got to go to a Minnesota Frost game.
Nice.
I've talked about them a lot on the podcast before, but for those who don't know, we have professional women's hockey here in Minnesota. Incredible.
Champs.
Oh, yeah. We won the Walter Cup end of last year. We're having a great
ever,
season this year.
First ever, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it was so cool. It was awesome going to XL where they have like all the championship banners hung up, and I'll spoil it. The Wild, they don't have those. But now we've got that really cool Frost banner hanging up in there, and
very
so
cool.
I dig it. So my high note was really just being able to go to the game. They were up 3, and then
Who are they playing?
they were playing Boston.
Okay.
Boston Fleet, which actually has a number of players on the team that are Minnesota-based, including some that went to high school with John Dugas at Hill Murray, the guy who we interviewed for this episode. So you guys just heard that interview. His students are now playing professionally. But
nice.
It was cool to just go see the game, to see them come back from winning, tying, and then getting that goal.
Totally.
I grew up playing hockey and then sort of lost the love of the sport as like men's sports just became like much more focused on like the fighting and the
testosterone.
Exactly. Less on the like playing good sports and more on the like throwing good punches.
Sure.
And women's hockey feels much more like the upper echelons of college, where it was like, this is just really good sport. And it's cool to see so many young girls that are growing up in an age where there is a professional route that they can go to. Like Kelly Panic, one of the players, I played hockey with her back when I was a little kid. She went to college, she got an Olympic gold, and then it's sort of like, that's the end of your hockey career. And now the PWHL is showing that there can be more. So that's really just my high note. It's a shout out to Frost, women's sports, all that cool stuff going on.
I too am a big Frost fan. But it's so funny because I've really paid attention to hockey in Minnesota since I was conscious, and you're saying like, oh, there's a emphasis on fighting and you know, a lot of hoopla, and I'm like, really, the men's game has, especially in Minnesota, but across the league, has been much more skill based, and so it's like we are getting to that point where it's like the brutes, the enforcers, the you know, heavy fisted dudes are kind of getting antiquated in the league, and like it's the skills players, it's the Kaprizovs, the Matthews, the McDavids.
See, and I like came to age in an era where like Derek Bugard was like the player.
He's still my favorite all time hockey player. And I'm not I've never been.
Do you know who that is?
I don't. But I love listening to the two of you talk.
Boogeyman.
Yeah, so he was a guy who was a pretty fine hockey player, but just tall, big, and a fighter.
He's 6'10" on skates.
Okay.
240, 250.
Sure.
You know, a lot.
You don't want to be checked by that guy.
No. You don't want to be near that man.
Sure.
I could fixate on talking Bugard for hours.
My wife and I watched a compilation of Bugard fights a couple weeks ago because she's a new hockey fan. She didn't watch the Wild back in that time.
I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about what I know the video you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, funny.
Yeah. Shout out Frost.
Now, if I wanted to watch that kind of stuff when I was younger, like my dad and I were very big WWF before it was like, oh shoot, sorry pandas, and then WWE.
Okay.
You know, so that like SummerSlam '99 when it came to Target Center.
SummerSlam
like, my dad bought me the belt. Like I had The Rock. Cool. He had a baseball jersey. Like, so I could get into that. But that was more of the like testosterone driven stuff. And then football was always kind of not like a huge thing in my house, but like a pretty big thing. So that kind of carried through now. So I am a Vikings fan and kind of connecting a few different high notes of like my sports high note related is I am a Vikings fan, and so it was very nice to watch the Vikings beat the Packers. And we are now going to play the Lions, and it's going to determine some playoff stuff, and I can't believe our record has been this high, and I just really hope like the 1998 playoffs don't happen again.
And at this point, our listeners know the results of this football game.
Oh, okay. That's exciting.
So really, we are in the past.
So we know if we have a bye or if we play on the 11th or on the 12th.
You guys will know. You guys will know.
Whew. But then also related, so sports, I was thinking of the purple, the jersey. And initially you said that your jersey was your high note. And my high note, just to keep it simple this week, was I got to go to Target with my son. And when we go to Target, he gets to get a hot cocoa.
Nice.
At Starbucks, which is cool. And so if he gets the hot cocoa, then we can usually stay for a little while. And I had to get like some Christmas gifts for people that I was behind on and blah, 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 blah. And I told him I wasn't going to go through the women's clothing section because he was being really good. And I didn't want to do that to him because that usually takes a long time for me. But on an end cap, there was like a clearance situation. And I saw this shirt and it says aperitivo, which is a typically before dinner drink that I usually enjoy quite a lot, especially from my history in restaurants and bars and things. And I loved it. And I had the gall to wear it to my corporate America job today, and I didn't get fired.
There we go. That's pretty good.
Yeah. So I was really excited, and I bought these cool sunglasses that normally I wear on my head because I think it's like a weird fixation thing or whatever. I don't know. But Jordan said I couldn't wear them, so.
I didn't say you couldn't wear them. I said
I'm just
make a
kidding.
decision.
Love you.
Well, you can wear them. We're just going to call you Marcus.
But that's funny. But I did kind of enjoy these sunglasses. I tried a few on in the store, and Gus, my son, these were the only ones that he said were okay. So these ones were Gus approved, but they kind of make me laugh because have you seen the movie, what's it called? The Hangover? And there's the baby and the thing.
Yeah.
And then you always see like the stickers of the baby on board, and it's the little baby with the glasses and the hat. After I bought them, I thought about that, and I was like, well, I'm going to keep them anyway. So I thought they were kind of fun.
I can see it, but I really like it.
Thank you. So that was my high note. We're just kind of adding some really fun accessories and trying to learn how to be me in new spaces.
I love it. Well,
That's
and
cool.
Those Target trips, I remember being a young kid and going to Target with my mom and us getting like the little packets of goldfish that I could eat as we're going around Target.
Yeah.
And I still, every time I go to Target, think like, should I get some goldfish? So
Right?
rest of your life, he's
Nostalgia.
going to go to Target and he's going to be like, guess I got to get a hot chocolate.
Yeah. I think for me with my mom, like we went to Cub. We don't really go to Cub with Gus, but when I was a kid going to Cub, remember those little like panda crackers where they were like
Frosted.
Oh, the Hello Pandas with the stuff
with
in
the stuff inside,
Yeah.
and you could do chocolate or strawberry. The chocolate ones, and they were in like a little hexagonal or octagonal box.
It's such a fun
yeah,
box.
and
You,
then
like,
when you sat up front, and you're lucky enough to get a cup holder, you just pop that thing right in there, pop it open.
They also have vanilla ones that I think are super good.
Ooh, I think I did get to have those once when I worked at the Varsity Theater in Dinkytown. There was this cute little boba shop across the street.
Yeah.
You go there all the time, and they had those little things, and I was like, nostalgia.
When did you work at the Varsity?
When it reopened, excuse me, when it was reallocated by Live Nation. So that was
It's like 2016.
18 or 19.
So I was living about 2 blocks from there at the time.
Oh, sure.
And so I was going to the Varsity pretty regularly. In
Oh,
fact,
really?
the last show that I saw right before the whole COVID shutdown was
Sure.
Mike Gordon at the Varsity. With a bass player for Fish, but it was like end of February of 2020.
Did you go to that King Crimson show?
No, I didn't.
Or no, I mean, no, it was was it King Crimson with Sean Lennon?
No.
Oh, I can't remember. Well, A, I was working there at the time, but B, that was a show that I took off, and I think it might have been for my husband's birthday, and I got us like the upper level balcony,
Cool.
dead center seats, and I didn't have to pay anything because I worked there, and that show was so good.
That's got to be
We
like
were
one of the
so
coolest
stoned,
perks
and it
of working
was-
somewhere.
It was really rad. There's a lot of cons in the pros and cons column too.
Yeah.
Like, whew.
I mean,
But-
hey, I get to watch a weekly taping of Northern Lights podcast every week.
That's true.
Like, that's a perk.
What a big benefit.
That's a perk.
Yeah, that was honestly one of the biggest things. Like when I had the job change, I was like, "What do you mean I don't get to smoke weed at work every day? How unfair!" And then and it was like an assumed thing. And then I was finishing my onboarding training for my thing, and they were like, "You cannot be high while you're at work. You cannot consume cannabis." And I was like, "Oh."
I'm pretty sure those are recommendations.
Guidelines more.
It's like a guideline policy. No, we won't get you fired. That's yeah. It's important to follow workplace policy.
Oh, yeah. But it's cool. Yeah.
I like it.
I said, having the cool clothes and being like, hey, this is a thing that I can be excited about that like means a lot to me, and I can wear it in all of the spaces that I find myself in.
Absolutely.
And that makes you feel good.
I didn't wear mine to work today, though. I wish I would have.
This is work?
I was inspired. Well, I suppose.
I consider this work for you.
I wore this jersey to work today, Jordan.
He wore this jersey to work today.
It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful piece of.
I wish that people
threads.
could see the vibrancy of this purple.
It's a really good one.
It's really lovely.
Shadow Frost.
Vikings take note.
All right, Jordan. Round us out. What is your high note for the week? What do you
I'm
got?
going to round us out very, very hard with a sharp left turn because
All
you
right.
guys are talking about accessorizing and your exciting moments of
I do like your
sports.
monotone today.
Thanks. I went very earthy today.
Green.
Yeah. All right. Fuck, marry, kill. Blunts, bongs, bowls.
All right. Oh, I like that one a lot.
Okay, wait. Okay, because I am getting a little high now, so say it again.
Blunts, bongs, bowls. Fuck, marry, kill.
All right. Are you okay if I go first?
Yes.
I would kill blunts.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried them. They're just not for me.
Yep.
I would. This is a sentence I've never said before. I would fuck a joint because it's like a good go-to, but I know I can't do it the rest of my life. Bong feels like I'm going to get high. I'm going to feel like a little bit cleaner about it. I'm going to have my cool rig. That feels like the marry for me. That'll be the rest of my life.
Yeah. I can see that. Kelly?
What do you think?
Nice. Yeah. So I would say, God, I mean, they're all so lovely in their own way, so it's tough. And killing is such a strong word, but I would say kill bowls.
Okay.
It was the first one, like, nostalgia, can't go wrong. But I like to sing
High
a
school
lot.
boyfriend.
Yeah.
I like to sing a lot and stuff. So like the direct, it's kind of harsh. Like I'm on my pipes and stuff. So I would say do that. I would say fuck a joint. Yeah, totally.
Blunts.
Always fuck a joint.
Blunts, bongs,
Wait.
bowls. The
Blunts,
bees.
bongs, bowls.
See, I
So-
did it wrong.
Okay,
we
so
both did it wrong.
I was like, Tanner's gonna go first, so then I'll remember.
Joints
what
are
they
out of here. So blunts, bongs, bowls. All right.
Joints are not involved.
Joints.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm
yeah,
still
joints are-
killing blunts. I don't
Sure,
like them.
sure.
I don't want them.
So yours is
Killing blunts.
fuck.
Yeah, probably a bowl.
Sure.
I always feel cool doing it. It reminds me of like when I first started smoking weed,
Yep.
but I don't like it.
Sure.
I like how I
Or if you have like a really cool artisan piece or
absolutely.
something.
I used to have a Gandalf that was so terrible to
Oh,
smoke.
sure,
It was
yeah.
not fun. But
But you felt-
man, did I love just like seeing the smoke trail off and being like, I am Gandalf in this
I am
moment.
Gandalf.
Yeah. So yeah, that would be for
Sure.
mine. What about for you between
Okay.
the bowls?
Blunts,
So-
bongs, bowls.
So, still kill bowls
All
as
right.
before.
For sure.
Fuck a blunt.
Okay. All right.
Fuck
Totally.
a blunt. Yeah, especially like there's this guy that stands right outside my work like 4 out of the 5 days a week, and it's 8 a.m. and he is just straight up blunt, and I'm like, respect. All right, cool. But he stands just right there. And the flavor is nice sometimes. Like sometimes I kind of like to be a girly about it. I'm like, this was a nice aperitivo. And then marry a bong.
All right.
You just can't go wrong. Marry a bong.
Yeah, I think I'm with Kelly on this. I'm even though the piece and joints are my most used vehicle
Right.
frequently, I'm marrying the bong because of kind of Tanner your reasoning. It's like feels like it's good for me.
Yeah.
Feels like I'm taking care of myself a little bit,
It's
making the
softer.
responsible long-term decision
Yeah.
based out of love and admiration. And then I'm
Mutual respect.
I'm fucking
And
a
love and
blonde.
admiration for others because
Exactly.
it's vapor, not
Yeah.
as harsh of a scent in the space you're in.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, no, but yeah. And then I'm fucking a blunt because it's exciting and like you kind of like you're like, oh my god, am I being flirted with right
Yeah, that's
now?
true. It's sort of about the rush of it.
It's
every
it's like
once in a
the
while.
anticipation. It's like the build up,
girls'
and then you're
night.
like, yeah, like who am I? Who am I right now?
Sure.
Wow. I like that we both brought games in today, but that they were just very different
Quite
types of
different
games.
Yeah. That's how we operate, Tanner. We are two sides of a weird looking coin.
See, and now I want to do like the dab version of this. Like it's
that's-
like hot nails, like
That's where the idea
Blowies.
started, but I wanted to get a little more just like zoomed out.
Yeah,
like
and
that one.
especially
That's
because
a
I
good
would
one.
not be able to speak to that one. I'd be like,
right.
I don't know. Can I just talk about my beaker bong?
well. So
And-
actually, one thing that you can speak to while we have you here, do you mind settling a dispute for us?
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to.
So earlier in the episode and earlier in our recording today, so people already know, we tried a new Tanner's Chirp tasting. We gave it a smell.
I was hoping that I was going to make it earlier. I even texted Jordan and he was like, oh, we did it first. And I was like, fuck, I don't get off till 3:15.
Yeah, so we really need you for this one because we had a
this is fun.
disagreement
Yay.
in the studio about what it smelled like. And so we're going to give you the jar. You can obviously see from the outside what type of oil it is.
Sure.
But I'm not going to tell you what I thought it smelled like or what Jordan thought it smelled like.
Okay.
We're just curious, like, what notes do you get from this? Knowing that there is no wrong answer, right? It's like asking, what color do you see? It looks blue. Okay, well, I disagree, but sure.
That's what's lovely about the world of wine.
Exactly.
And, you know,
That's what I said.
Yeah, so here is Sour Papaya by Hashi Gilmore. People can go back in the episode, watch our review of it. But do you mind smelling that and just letting us know, what do you think it smells like?
Sure. My hands are kind of sweaty, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to.
No, you're
Okay,
good.
here
It's
we go,
also
here we
not
go.
a great jar.
There we go. Now the pressure's on.
No. There's really
And if anyone that
no
anyone
pressure.
that watches this like actually knows anything about wine, they're going to be like, "You're a
Well, here,
Open
no,
your thing for your
I
other
guess
people.
what we
No,
can
I'm
do
just
to
kidding.
give you a little bit of a lead is that I thought that this oil smelt pretty rancid, like it had gone bad.
Sure. But think about a sour papaya.
For sure.
That's the name of the strain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you think about a sour papaya, like it would probably start to ferment.
Yeah.
And it would probably start to get into funk land.
Others got a little bit more of the sweetness of it, like a little
I-
bit more of that like natural fruitiness.
I'm almost getting like a sweet white floral.
Okay. All right.
But could go into kind of like a honeysuckle territory.
Okay, totally.
Sorry, that's probably like really loud breathing.
Oh no, that's why people listen to the show. It's the ASMR of it.
ASMR.
Oh yeah, we love to do our best Marcus impersonation, which is just going.
Oh wait, that's me when I'm snoring.
But then like so much longer.
Yeah,
I
20 times
Shout
longer.
out, Marcus.
I really can I like.
You want to try?
Really want to just like stick my freaking nose in there, but I don't want to be gross.
Should we get you a taste of it real quick?
Maybe a teeny one.
All right.
Can
So this
you do it
is.
with me?
Oh, absolutely.
Yay.
So this is the conclusion of Tanner's Chirp Tasting from earlier. For some of those that were watching and saw our rating of it.
Is it the epilogue?
So I will
Yeah, the
say,
epilogue.
kind of based on if you said that one person was kind of getting more funk, I would not go funk.
Okay.
I would go a tad more floral, and a bit more on the like fruity, like I don't think it's a sour gone bad papaya, if that's kind of what they're going for. I think it's more of a ripe papaya with sour notes. Like if you were going to make like a sour beer out of papaya or something. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that one better. I feel like it's a little more user-friendly.
Yeah.
Plus it feels like I'm using a Nintendo Switch, which is nice.
Yeah, the Puffco versus the Rig is definitely
It feels
I'm
like
a girly, what can I say? Woo,
It
deep
feels
down.
like
I'm
Mac
actually a
versus
tomboy.
PC.
Yeah. This is the Apple of the cannabis world.
I listened to a
would
lot
agree
of
with
Judge John Hodgman, who was so John Hodgman, very funny guy. Listen to his podcasts, as well as this one.
Friend of the show.
John Hodgman, in my mind, is
I'm not trying
the
to endorse,
first
but he's
podcaster.
wonderful.
He's like the first.
Well, because he
podcaster.
works with Jesse Thorne, and Jesse Thorne was arguably in a lot of people's minds like the first because he had Bullseye, right? Did you listen to that show?
Nope.
You might like it.
I was like G4 Gaming, but like that was the first podcast. That was like 2005.
Yeah.
6.
Did it surprise you that Radiolab was my introduction to podcast?
Radiolab was my like, oh shit, this is like absolutely like the medium of content that I want to like engage with. Like Radiolab really broke open the journalistic bounds of what I believe to be
Do you
possible.
guys do 99% Invisible?
yeah, that's a good
99%
one.
Invisible.
So good.
Radiolab did an interesting cannabis podcast not that long ago.
Fun.
That had a lot of things that I disagreed with, but also a lot of things that I agreed with. And that's, I think, the hallmark of a good podcast.
I agree. I do.
Sorry, so now you've
I was
tried
like,
it.
what were we talking
You've done
about?
this smell. Yeah, no. It's
Damn.
cannabis podcast.
Yeah, so I would have to say, if I were to settle an argument, let me just give it one more
Oh, yeah,
whiff
absolutely.
Especially now that I've had some.
You've got that full experience of it all.
Because it's actually up literally in my olfactory bulb now. I would have to go more on the sweet floral side, I think.
All right.
Fruity still, but
Jordan's right.
Boom, boom, boom. The palate knows.
There we go.
Yeah.
See, and that's what I love about this is there's no wrong answers. And even if I do say something wrong, we had some good hash, and that's
definitely.
nothing wrong about that.
It's not right or wrong, Tanner.
There you go.
You
It just is.
hashed it out.
Aha. You
Kelly-
just had to chirp about it a little bit. Yep.
Oh, you guys don't
was
have
like,
your headphones on
crickets?
right now. So
But we could, yeah. There we go.
but I did a rim shot and then crickets to really show the impact of like the funniness
And the
not
lack.
funny. I'm just kidding.
Can you
Kelly.
tell I have a toddler at home?
All right, this camera's about to die.
All right, well, we're going to wrap it up here. But, guys, truly, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Northern Lights. We'll be back in a week. We're back to our regular rotation. In the meantime, find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, all that jazz. Shout out to the Dabbler Depot. Thank you guys so much for having us here at the Seed and Sesh. Such a fun time. Come on down, 951 Payne Avenue. But for this week, that's all we got. We'll be back in your feeds in just a week here. See you later, everyone. Happy New Year. Northern Lights is a Minnesota Cannabis College production. This episode was produced by me, Tanner Barris, and by Steve Eigenman and Jordan With. Production assistance from Marcus Harkis, Shayna Payton, and John Barty. Video and audio recording at the Dabbler Depot studio by Jordan With. The information provided in this podcast does not, and is not intended to, constitute legal advice, but is instead for general information purposes only. No listener should act solely on the basis of information provided without first seeking advice from their own legal counsel. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of the Minnesota Cannabis College. Please listen responsibly.